Welcome to Investa Pioneer, your ticket to the future. Be the first to join us as we enter the world of NFTs. Your access to Investa's future events and competitions. Be one of the first to access our very own investment platform. Be the first to experience a different level of guidance with our trading mentorship program and 100 hours worth of recorded learning sessions. Be the first to wear our Pioneer colors and badges. And be the first to witness Investa as we conquer the world trading arena. Pioneer NFTs. Pioneer Investment App Access. Pioneer Opportunities. This is Investa's future. Will you be joining us? Become an Investa Pioneer today.
Hello, what's up mga ka-Investa? Welcome and good evening sa lahat ng nanonood ng ating stream tonight. Welcome everyone. Shout out muna sa ating mga watchers and viewers. Congratulations sa mga nanonood ngayon. Today, we are very excited to start one of the first Investa crypto and NFT focused event, no? WAGMI, no? So I'm sure may mga nakakaalam dito kung ano ibig sabihin ng WAGMI. And today, 'di ba, we want to know how to make it in the new finance world. Alam natin na grabe yung technology ng crypto, sobrang disruptive. And habang tumatagal yung population ng crypto users, crypto traders, and NFT enthusiasts, padami ng padami. And of course, along with this disruptive technology, talagang may opportunity for us to learn, for us to earn as well, di ba? So I'm sure na marami sa inyo ang excited because today we invited very special professionals in the space, no? And they are very talented in what they do. They are renowned investors, no, in the space. So we have later on makakasama natin si Boss JM Lapiña, no? I'm sure maraming nakakakilala sa ating Boss JML Capital, no? And he is a legendary trader and the Chief Marketing Officer of Investa. So mamaya pag-uusapan niya yung bridging the gap, no, between the traditional world and the digital world. And pag-uusapan niya yung blockchain and DeFi coins. Aside from that, makakasama natin si Boss Luis Buenaventura. He is the country manager for Yield Guild Games. And pag-uusapan niya kung paano nga ba talaga mag-start with NFT art. I'm sure marami sa inyo ang interesado matutunan, no? Kasi NFTs are one of the disruptive technologies ng crypto, and I think marami sa inyo ang artists and marami sa atin ang gustong kumita from this space as well. And next, we will also have Boss Javi Medina, one of the co-founders of Open Journal, di ba? And kilala natin siya, one of the legendary investors here in the Philippines, from poker to investing to teaching Elliott Wave. Grabe. So sobrang exciting ng ating session today. And later on, makakasama natin si Boss Toma Trader, no, ang ating favorite, no. And he will be representing JC Bisnar because meron lang short emergency, no, si Boss JC. Pero makakasama natin si Boss Toma Trader to explain, no, ano nga ba yung Investa Pioneers. Because I'm sure maraming hindi pa nakakaalam and marami rin yung gustong makapasok sa opportunity na ito. Now, ayoko nang patagalin because I'm sure lahat ng nandito ay gustong matuto, excited ng mag-take ng notes, excited ng mag-delve into the crypto world. And before we start, no, I'd like to mention na mamaya meron tayong paraffle, no. So guys, share the stream, tag 3 friends, and ilagay niyo yung hashtag Investa Pioneers to win 1,000 pesos worth of investment funds sa ating mutual fund and Investa app, no? So I hope you guys are all excited, and hindi ko na papatagalin. I'd like to call on the first speaker, Boss JM Lapiña. Boss JM, I'd like to call you here on the stream with us today. All right.
Hello,
Yun,
Renzo.
Boss JM.
Good evening.
Kumusta ka naman, boss?
Yan, okay naman. Ngayon, work from home lang tayo, di ba? So, bahay-bahay lang muna. And bagay na bagay yung mga discuss natin tonight regarding the metaverse. Especially ngayon, work from home tayo, di ba? Parang nagkaroon nung sobrang bilis ng tech development na umabot sa point na unti-unti na naging digital yung mundo. Yan. Kamusta sa lahat na
Tama,
nanonood?
tama. And I'm sure nakikita naman namin na ikaw ay ang isa sa mga pioneers ng space na 'to, Boss JM.
Hindi naman. Na-escalate lang
Alright.
din ng
So,
pandemic.
I solid. So excited na ang ating mga ka-investa, no? So I'd like to give the floor to you, Boss JM, and good luck, sir. Kita-kits in a few minutes.
Ayun, thank you, Renzo. Thank you, Renzo. Yun. Ayan, kita na pala yung slide ko. So, tonight, I'll be discussing the metaverse. Basically, explain ko in a basic way kung ano nga ba yung difference between the traditional world and kung ano yung nangyayari sa mundo. Kung paano nagdi-digitalize yung mundo and paano nagiging rampant yung usage ng blockchain technology. So, let me begin my slide. So, papakilala lang ako ulit. My name is JM Lapiña. I've been trading the market, both the crypto and stock market for 8 years now. And I'm currently handling a 10-digit fund privately managed by me and soon to be incorporated in the EU. Then I'm also the chief marketing officer of Investagrams. And kami sa Investagrams, what we want to do is to really spread not just stock market investment knowledge, but also yung ibang investment opportunities that you guys, us ordinary people, can do or can invest into. So, ayun. So basically, I just want to say, I want to start with this phrase, which is the future is here. So basically, in the past, the older generation, what they do is, kumbaga hindi tayo tumatagal sa harap ng computer, especially the older ones. But now, due to the rampant increase in technology, nagiging less social na yung mga tao in a sense na hindi na masyadong lumalabas yung mga kabataan. And that's because of the rampant development in the space of technology, especially yung mga games. Yung mga bata ngayon, they prefer staying at home, playing video games with their friends, instead of yung dati na takbuhan sa labas, laro ng mga kung ano-anong laro outside the streets. Yan. Especially in the pandemic, lalo siya naging na-increase, kumbaga yung speed ng development. And that's what we're going to talk about para hindi tayo maiiwan in the near future whenever tayo dali ng mundo. So let's compare. What's the difference between the real world and the metaverse? So let's start with this one. Sobrang basic. Para sa mga hindi may alam, let's define Bitcoin. It's basically known as the new gold. What it does is isa siya sa mga peer-to-peer electric transaction system wherein kung magpapadala ka ng pera, you can use the Bitcoin network wherein pwede mong dalhin, kumbaga, pwede mong ilipat yung pera mo to other people's wallet without going through the banks. So basically, ikaw yung bangko and may pera ka sa wallet mo na digital. And if you want to transfer, hindi ka na dadaan sa kahit sino. Kumbaga, if you want to transfer funds, pwede mong idiretso sa ibang tao na directly. Yun yung main purpose niya. It's also called in the past a safe haven asset because there are multiple times wherein bumabagsak yung equity market, bumabagsak yung ibang markets, and yung Bitcoin, dito nagpupunta yung mga money. So bumabagsak yung iba, ito nagiging stable pa lang or stable lang at the same time, minsan tumataas pa. So that's why it's called multiple times na safe haven asset. Next would be Ethereum. Personally, I would like to call this one a new internet wherein lahat ng apps, or hindi naman lahat, pero almost all apps or almost all technology is nakakabit through the Ethereum network. So it's basically uses the blockchain technology and to decentralize every piece of technology or app we currently use. So instead na, for example, in the, sa Facebook, diba, the company owns the technology. So they have access sa data natin, they have access sa mga ginagawa natin sa internet or sa Facebook or sa app, whatever app that is, meron silang access. But in the blockchain network, yun yung tinatanggal niya. Kumbaga, what they want to do is to really separate our personal information from other people wherein they can control our emotions. So, kunwari, nakita niya, oy, lagi siya nagtitingin ng mga gadgets, appliances. So minsan makita mo yung mga ads, parang naririnig ka ni Facebook or ng ibang social network. Wherein lahat ng ads na nakikita mo are gadgets. So that's one of the example na tinatry baguhin ng blockchain network. So Ethereum, ito yung mga bagay na sinusolve niya. Number one, as I said a while ago, is yung data privacy. So basically, sa normal or sa traditional world, everything is centralized. Meaning, merong isang company, lahat alam niya, lahat nakikita niya, bird's eye view. So they can track us, they can sell our data, and they can serve ads to us individually. So what Ethereum wants to do is they want to make it decentralized as much as possible. Meaning you own your data. If you want to sell your data, nasa sayo. They're paying for your data. That's why ikaw yung babayaran instead of the company behind whatever the app or application you're using. Next would be the digital money. For example, in the real world, kung may kilala kayo sa abroad or kapamilya kayo na OFW, it takes a while before yung mga transfer nila dumating sa Pilipinas. So for example, nag-transfer ka, you would go through the hassle of opening sa bank na account. Then minsan you have to transfer sa branch mo. Hindi pa online, kunwari. So may mga ganong times wherein sobrang hassle niya. Also, there are times wherein you have to wait for days in order for your funds to clear, especially if if galing siya sa US. Right? Sometimes it takes 30 days, 14 days. Depende on the bank that's you're using. So what Ethereum or what the blockchain does is they actually speed up the process. So instead of going through several regulations, several processes, once nilagay mo yung pera mo sa blockchain and transfer mo sa ibang tao, in a few minutes or minsan an hour, pero usually few minutes lang siya, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, yung pera from abroad can go to the wallet of your family in the Philippines. Ganun kasimple. Also, it enables an economy without borders or skin color to worry about. So, anti-discriminatory siya in such a way na regardless kung mayaman ka or sakto lang yung pera mo, hindi alam ng chain. Kumbaga, what the blockchain sees is yung wallet address mo lang and the contracts. Next would be the art. I'll go into more details later. So basically, blockchain provides for art a way for people to track the ownership of the asset. So once you have an art that's built on the blockchain, alam na agad ng tao na, uy, itong wallet na to, siya yung may-ari nito. Itong taong to, siya yung may-ari nito. And it can easily be authenticated. Also, easy transfers for art. Instead of you bringing yung painting mo or selling your painting or artwork na pupuntahan mo pa yung buyer mo, sa digital art or NFTs, it can be transferable or it can be transferred online. Same din sa digital money na in a few minutes, you can transfer that ownership to other people. And the market reach, given na mas madali mo na nababuy or sell yung mga art, yung funds, or yung crypto tokens, sobrang laki ng market reach mo dahil nasa abroad or nasa Philippines, kayang-kaya niyang daanan or basically blockchains everywhere. So let's compare. Ano nga ba yung iba pang differences ng traditional world sa blockchain? Let's start with the banks. Ayan, mas detailed na siya. So for the banks, sa mga hindi may alam, it's very centralized, meaning the bank knows lahat ng transactions mo. Lahat nakalagay sa data. They want to know magkano yung pera mo magkano yung pera mo sa kanila. They know kung ano yung work mo. They know ano yung ginagawa mo sa buhay, ano yung labas-pasok na pera sa bank account mo. Basically relies on data banks. I mean the database owned by the banks. While in the blockchain, it's decentralized. It's basically a tamper-proof way of recording lahat ng transactions mo in the blockchain. So instead of going to the middleman, it's you going to another person. Peer-to-peer, kumbaga. Kumbaga, kung may friend ka gustong padala ng pera, kayong dalawa yung mag-usap. Well, sa bank, dadaan mo sa bank lahat ng transactions. So that's why it's really hard to hack blockchain technology. It's because wala nang middleman, inaalis niya yun. Well, sa banks, sometimes na-hack siya kasi dinadaan pa yung tech or dinadaan pa yung pera mo dun sa banko na yun. And sometimes, banks, especially the older ones, doesn't have that technology wherein it's really secured. Yung iba can be hacked. Yung iba kahit may OTP, kaya pa rin i-manipulate ng, or exploit ng hackers. Yan, yun yung difference niya. Next one would be the transfer duration. So, gaya sabi ko kanina, banks takes a while because kailangan pa i-clear nung bangko kung saan galing yung pera mo, bakit ka may pera. And sometimes, minsan tatanungin ka pa, ang bata mo, bakit ka may wealth? Or bakit ka may pera? Well, sa blockchain, no one cares about your transaction. It's between you and the person you're transferring your money into or the company you're trying to transfer your money into. It's very quick, it's very efficient, and everything is traceable. Kumbaga lahat nasa blockchain. Well, sa the traditional bank, kunwari, nag-transfer ka, example, via PesoNet, once lumabas sa bank A yung pera mo, it will be really hard to track kung ano yung nangyari before it goes to the bank na papasahan mo. That's the mga samples na. Next would be reliability. Banks, of course, it's very reliable. Lahat ng tao sa banks before they open an account, kini-KYC muna sila. So meaning, alam muna ng bank kung sino yung taong to and ano yung ginagawa niya. So kilala mo yung tao na pinapasahan. While it's a blockchain, dahil nga unregulated siya, sometimes people think na it's unsafe, di siya masyado reliable. Kasi once na mali yung na-transferan mo na wallet, for example, or na tao, hindi mo alam kung sino yung taong yun. Right? So, it's really anonymous dahil nga decentralized siya. Yun yung downside niya. Next naman is the rates. For example, time deposit rates. This is what I've seen a while ago while checking. One of the banks offering this one. So, yung nasa dulo, yan yung 365 days. As you can see, it's around 0.37% per year. Ganun kaliit yung binibigay ng bank for them to store your funds. While sa blockchain, this one is from Binance, it's around 5% if it's more than 75,000 US dollar or USDT, which is the equivalent of US dollar in crypto. So, sobrang layo ng difference ng rates given na the banks actually earn from the money you're trying to deposit to their account. And you can see that, for example, maglo-loan ka sa bank, how much interest yung hinihingi nila or sinisingil nila sa mga tao when they're trying to loan them their money. Let's go to the art. So for the traditional one, sample would be Mona Lisa. In the blockchain, basically JPEGs. So basically image files or pictures na gawa ng artist. So of course, at first you can see the parang pwede mo sabihin na just like me, sinabi ko dati parang picture lang yan. So I can save it in my phone. But the thing with that is hindi mo talaga siya own. Same with the traditional art. Pwede mo naman i-save yung Mona Lisa sa phone mo, pero it doesn't mean you own it. While in the blockchain, you actually own it and people are willing to pay for those NFTs. Example would be this one from Steph Curry. He actually bought this one for 180,000 US dollars or around 9 million pesos during that time. And now, sobrang layo na ng price niya. I think it's around 50 ETH. So, 50 Ethereum, around 15 million yata or 20 million. That's the price of the ano. So, for the ownership, traditional art, you have certificate and this one needs to be authenticated. But what if wala na yung artist na gumawa ng art? Paano mo siya i-authenticate? You have to go to different people wherein na mga experts, kumbaga they can authenticate the art the same time, they're licensed to authenticate the art. And sometimes, even family members, pwede mo sila puntahan. And that's one of the hassles of it. Well, in the blockchain, everything is in smart contract. Whatever happens to the artist, kita ng lahat ng tao yung ownership ng contract, which is the one holding the wallet, the contract for that NFT. Kasi hindi na siya basta JPEGs. On the back side of it or in the back end, lahat yon naka-contract, nasa smart or nasa code. So you can easily see kung sino ba yung may-ari nitong art na to, sino ba yung pinagbentahan niya, kanina ba niya binili, magkano ba niya binili. Lahat yon very transparent in the blockchain. For traditional, the maintenance, of course, it needs extra care, especially kung yung art mo is old. And, of course, may possibility siyang masira. Same time, kailangan mo siyang ingatan, right? To increase the value. Hindi mo siya pwedeng hayaan lang kung saan-saan. Sometimes, meron pa mga temperature room because I collect traditional art myself. And talagang kailangan mo siyang i-maintain, especially if it's old yung art. In the blockchain, maintenance could be 0 to none. Basically, it lives in the blockchain forever. Lahat nasa code, except if may global outage or nawala na kuryente sa buong mundo, which para end of the world na ganyan. Doon lang siya maano. Or kung sumabog yung blockchain, which is very low probability. For the transfer of certificates, delivery of artwork, authentication, yun yung mga parts wherein dapat mo i-consider before investing in traditional art. While in the blockchain, basically, sinabi ko kanina, it's very easy. You have to transfer the NFT to another wallet. And pag transfer mo siya, lahat can be seen in the contract. Di mo siya pwedeng, transfer ka na, babuyin ko. Di pwedeng ganun. Once nagawa na siya sa contract, it's already done, basically. And hindi siya mapipeke dahil lahat connected dun sa owner ng contract. So you can easily track kung ito ba yung original artwork, ito ba yung ginawa, for example, Investa Pioneers, ito ba yung ginawa ni Investa, or ito ba yung hindi ginawa ni Investa, or fake lang to. Makikita mo agad sa contracts, which is one of the, basically the upside or the advantage of NFTs. Talaga. Art naman ulit, traditional ones, may community, as well, it's very private, intimate. Basically, high-end individuals or high-net-worth individuals usually meet up. May mga meetups yan. And okay din naman. May networking din naman. Which is good, actually. Well, in the blockchain or NFTs, meron pa rin siyang ganun, but now it's more basically global. For example, you're an artist. You're opening your community to international investors na sobrang easy lang. Well, in the art, you have to do road shows, you have to do, kailangan magpakilala ka sa buong mundo, manually, kumbaga. Well, in the blockchain, once it's in the chain, once na nandun siya sa mga top sites or top companies wherein you can see NFTs or basically marketplace ng NFTs, once nandun siya, makikita na siya ng mga tao easily anywhere in the world. Next would be airdrops. So basically, airdrops, it means na, for example, I'm an artist and I want to incentivize those people na bumili ng art ko. One of the marketing or one of the ways to do it is to give them airdrops, which means, for example, may art A ka, meron kang art piece number 1. What you want to do is to give out art piece number 2 at a discount or for free to the people who's holding your art piece or basically your collectors. So ganun siya nag-work. Which is really hard to do if it's traditional because dapat mo pa siyang ipadala whenever or dapat pang hanapin yung taong may-ari ng artwork mo. What if you have thousands of people holding your art or collecting your art? Traditional world, ito yung maganda pa sa blockchain, it enables artists to actually maximize the benefits of their work. Traditional way, they earn from the sale of their art, right? So pag binenta nila, meron silang profit. So yun. While in the blockchain, meron kang profit from the sale, at the same time you gain royalties. Every time people exchange yung artwork mo or yung NFTs mo, nagkakaroon ng royalty or may fees direct to the artist wallet. So hindi na one time. Instead of one time sale ng artist, ngayon meron pa siyang continuous revenue stream coming from the royalties. And basically, yung ginagawa nito is it motivates the artist to do more, or basically validation for them. Na, ay, dami nakaka-appreciate ng work ko, and at the same time, ang daming change of hands, kumbaga. Kumakalat yung art, kumakalat yung network, kumakalat yung community. Next would be, ito yung medyo tricky. This is the metaverse part. Traditional, it's really offline. So maybe you can post a picture in Instagram, post a picture in Facebook, or pag pumunta yung friend mo or family members mo sa bahay nyo, makita yung art mo. For example, this one. Yan, may art ako dito. So, yun. Pag pumunta sila, makikita nila. But in the blockchain, it can be brought into the metaverse. So, ano yung meaning yan? I show you. Basically, yung NFT mo, it doesn't limit. For example, you have Mona Lisa, NFT. You can bring Mona Lisa as an avatar, or create Mona Lisa as an avatar in one of the games in the metaverse. So let's go to the games muna. For example, in the games, traditional games, for example, Dota, League of Legends, whatever. And sa blockchain Axie, di ba? Hindi pa siya masyadong develop, as you can see. But the difference would be, once you buy in-game items sa mga current games na we have now, nandun lang siya sa game na yun. Kumbaga, if you want to sell that, it's really hard for you to do so because companies are limiting you to sell. But in the blockchain, you actually have the chance to actually earn from playing the game. So yun yung isa pang ginagawa niya. Na once nakuha na nung play to earn games or play to earn companies yung full potential niya, people can actually go to work through playing, or basically not go to work because they're just playing in their homes. Especially last time, sobrang lakas ng Axie and sobrang kumalat siya. And Axie is just one of them. And this is just the beginning because Axie, as you can see, itsura niya. If you are a gamer and you compare it to other games, sobrang layo pa. Sobrang laki pa ng opportunity, sobrang laki pa ng potential. Especially the graphics part, the user experience part. And imagine what it can do in the next years or in the next few years. So that's why you have to study this one kasi once you're able to actually, well, not just invest, but also buy NFTs or crypto companies, or buy into shares of crypto companies, you have the chance to actually earn from it, and at the same time make your money grow in technology. So ito nga, metaverse, basically NFTs can be avatars, can be items, or can even be pets. So pwede ka gumawa ng aso na NFT something. Yung kanina, isa sa mga sikat is yung Bored Ape Yacht Club. Basically, mga apes sila. So, mga unggoy na sobrang mahal. And they can use those apes as avatars in the metaverse. So, as you can see, kung normal na tao ka without any knowledge of the NFT world or the metaverse, kung makikita mo yung Bored Ape, parang wala lang, mukha lang siya unggoy, medyo simple lang siya. Pero in reality, these people who are holding these apes are actually well respected in the community. Na pag meron ka nitong Bored Ape na to, which worth around 20 million, 15 million ata or 20 million yung pinakamababang price, you're something in the community. Ito yung mga sample ng mga NFT games, NFT world. So these are the NFTs sa Decentraland, I think. Ayan. These are the arts. Meron silang bahay sa whatever land they're investing into, Decentraland. Ayan. And actually, hindi lang siya parang game sa laptop or something. Facebook, they upgraded, they actually changed their name to Meta, right? So Metaverse, if you actually have Oculus Quest or the VR system of Facebook na binili nila years ago, you can actually try to use the VR and go to their metaverse, which is yung app na Horizon. So that's what they're planning to do. They want to onboard people in the metaverse. And the fastest way to do it is to make games, to create communities inside, and yun nga, gawin yung Horizon. And kung meron kayong VR, actually na-try ko na rin kasi meron ako, it's really a different ball game now compared to what it was years ago. Na parang sobrang labo ng graphics, sobrang pangit pa, to be honest. Pero ngayon, sobrang iba na siya. It can even track your hand movements. So kung ano yung ginagalaw mo or ginagawa mo sa kamay mo in the real world, you can actually see in the metaverse with your avatar. Yeah, same din sa kanina, it can be brought to the metaverse. So how to be metaverse ready? Ayan. So step 1, this is what I want to leave with all of you guys, especially I'm discussing yung introduction to the metaverse, is for all of you to have an open mind. So regardless kung ano yung sinasabi ng kaibigan mo, sinasabi ng mga tao sa paligid mo, wag mo agad siya i-negate. Kumbaga, give them a chance or give something or what they're saying a chance to be heard. Kumbaga, alamin nyo muna kung ano yung sinasabi nila. Ano ba yung metaverse? Ano ba itong mga to? Always be open to opportunities. Kasi a lot of people, especially in the past, are not open to opportunities. That's why ngayon sa present, hindi nila na-maximize kung ano yung meron sila. So you have to have an open mind. Hindi yung networking na open mind, but yung to other opportunities. Step 2 is to read books and watch videos. There's a lot of articles freely available online that can speed up our learning process of the metaverse. Ano ba yung ginagawa niya? Sometimes, paano ba kikita sa metaverse? Paano ba ako bibili ng digital assets? Which is now, right? Like for example, before, how can people buy gold? Yung gold sobrang bigat. So for you to have a lot of gold, you have to have sobrang laking logistics or warehouse. But now, in the metaverse, it's also considered as digital assets, and sometimes it reach millions of dollars a piece. So hindi na siya yung parang dati na picture lang yan, something. It has value. And to be honest, very liquid siya. Hindi siya yung parang ibang exchange. Step 3 would be to read on different NFTs. So this is one of the very important aspect of the blockchain technology for me. Kasi NFTs talaga is it's not just art. It's more of a way for people to get assets. Basically, digital assets talaga siya wherein you as a person is living in the metaverse. But be careful lang kasi not all of them are created equal. Some are meant to stay in the short term, but some, or yung mga leaders, pwede silang pang long term, wherein yung value nila sobrang taas in the future. So you have to study well on that. Step 4 is to allocate and take the risk. Walang mangyayari kung magbabasa ka lang habang buhay. It's more of being immersed. It doesn't mean that you have it doesn't mean na tanggalin mo lahat ng pera mo sa iba, ilagay mo sa metaverse, ilagay mo sa NFTs, ilagay mo sa crypto. You just get a small capital and try to explore kung ano ba yung meron sa cryptocurrency market. Sa crypto market. Step 5 ito, nagkamali ng step 2, is to stay updated kasi sobrang bilis ng pag-evolve ng technology. And once na-delay ka ng learning, sobrang layo na nung gap mo sa current na meron. So yun, that are the 5 steps na ma-recommend ko for the first timer, especially those na wala pa masyadong alam sa crypto, wala pa masyadong alam sa NFTs, is to actually learn and experience kung ano nga ba yung meron siya. Ayan. So in the metaverse, so basically metaverse as defined by Binance, it's a living and breathing space that blends physical and digital. So hindi mo totally aalisin yung physical because you need the physical to actually be relatable. Diba? It's a quickly evolving from a science fiction dream into a reality with endless possibilities. Yeah. So in the metaverse, you can be anyone you want. You can be anywhere you want. You can be whoever you want to be. And at the same time, walang discrimination. You can be rich in the metaverse and normal ka lang sa real life. So basically, yung ino-offer niya. And I hope a lot of you can actually test or see, at least study kung ano nga ba sila and how it's trying to shape or disrupt kung ano yung meron ngayon sa traditional world. Yan. Thank you for listening and I hope you learn a lot. And you may ask your questions kung ano, kung meron na.
All right. Okay, so thank you Boss JM for that very enlightening session, and I think from that ang dami nang nakuha and mas naintindihan natin yung metaverse, mas naintindihan natin yung paano nga ba nabibridge yung gap from digital to the traditional, from art to, and grabe yung impact ng metaverse. So I like to call on Boss JM again for a few questions. No guys, huwag kayong mahiya, I'm sure na may mga tanong kayo para kay Boss JM. Take this opportunity to ask one of the legends in this space. Pero to start off, habang nagta-type kayo ng mga questions nyo, I'd like to ask you, Boss JM, sa tingin nyo, boss, sa Pilipinas, at least here in the Philippines, how relevant is the metaverse right now? Because in my understanding, 'di ba, parang kailangan meron kang VR headset para makaparticipate ka, para ma-experience mo yung metaverse. Sa Pilipinas, sobrang konti pa lang nang nakikita ko na merong standalone headset na Oculus or ibang headsets. Ano sa tingin mo, gaano ka-relevant siya ngayon in our time?
Well, I think the metaverse itself is really the future given na ayan, may pandemic, 'di ba? And I think given na that there's a lot of opportunities in the metaverse or in the NFT space or crypto space, dapat aralin na ng mga tao. So ngayon pa lang, habang maaga pa sila. Especially in Pilipinas, if you see Axie, if you see other online crypto games or play to earn games, Philippines or Filipinos basically are the top scholars or basically top end users of the product, which is good. At the same time, I think mas mamamaximize natin if i-support natin yung mga tao, especially the players, especially the people. Kasi, to be honest, mahirap talaga maging leader sa space. To give a comparison, Vietnam is one of the leading, given na yung Vietnam, di ba, at par lang sa atin before, years ago, but now they're really way ahead in terms of technology, in terms of development, even in terms of companies that is heading toward or gearing towards the future. So lumalayo na yung gap between the Vietnam, which is before sobrang baba lang sa atin nila eh. Pero ngayon parang ang layo na natin. And it can be seen not just in the digital world but also in the physical world. So yun, dapat i-support natin yung mga tao, especially yung strength natin eh. Strength nila, they can develop yung mga apps, they can develop the games. Sa atin, meron din tayong ganun, pero I think the main strength of Filipinos is yun nga, tayo yung end users. Parang OFW lang yan. We are the end users, we have the OFWs. Basically, they're working by playing the games. And if you support that, we continue or cultivate that, and be open to blockchain, I think may chance yung Pilipinas to rise. Kasi mauuna tayo eh. And given na hindi naman talaga tayo dapat huli. Kasi yung, for example, Bitcoin, I think we are the first country to have a Bitcoin ATM. And hindi siya na-support, parang nawala lang siya bigla. And ayun nangyari. Parang naging na tayo. Slow growth na ulit. And I think yun yung challenge for especially election, challenge for the new leaders that we have is to actually integrate digital, especially blockchain, pwede nilang gamitin to speed up the process. Kasi ngayon, if you go to local government or local departments of government, for example, mag-apply ka ng corporation, ganyan, very traditional. You have to pass yung pen and paper pa rin eh. Hindi pa rin siya digital eh. And yun, I think if we digitalize, if we're able to make it transparent, mas mapapabilis yung trabaho. And of course, iwas din sa corruption. Kasi transparent na.
Yun. I agree. So tama, kailangan i-embrace natin yung technology. Baka makatulong to sa Pilipinas as a whole, no? Pwede tayong umangat. So, I'd like to move on to the audience questions. So, I think this one is very relevant from AJD. So, Boss JM, how to pick NFT projects? Thousands of NFTs are being created daily. So, do you have any guidelines or tips for AJ?
This one's really complex, pero I myself prefer yung mga projects na hindi naman kailangan lahat. It's more of the ones with the volume. So of course, you have to see, parang ano lang din siya stock picking eh. You have to check the team behind it, sino ba yung supporters nila, sino ba yung early adopters nila, ano ba yung community nila. It's basically a mixture of stock trading or equity trading and art collecting. So you're not just buying the art. You actually want to earn from the art, right? Or to earn from the stocks. So kailangan aralin mo kung sino ba yung team behind that. And of course, kailangan may volume. A lot of people are actually buying it. Para whenever you want to sell, someone will actually buy. And yun, especially yung nangyayari kasi ngayon, parang yung ibang mga projects na walang roadmap or basically anonymous yung developers, ganyan, hindi siya masyado nagko-fly eh. But pag meron kang project wherein experts yung mga tao behind that, experts in their field, I would say, and maayos na tao, and yung backers nila, big companies, big venture cap, sobrang supported in such a way na um, mas sila yung nag-grow, kumbaga. Kasi, for example, one of the OpenSea, one of the marketplace, kapag top project ka with the top volume, ikaw agad yung makikita sa rankings eh. And once people see that, they'll be attracted kung ano yung ginagawa mo. And curious sila, ano ba tong companies to? And yun, sobrang lakas eh. It's more of, number one, to summarize, the team behind it. Number two, the investors. Investors are basically the collectors of the art, kung sino-sino sila. Ano ba yung demographics nila? Number three would be the ito mas deeper yung mga smart contracts. Check mo lang din kung may butas or ano. So it's much deeper pero kasama siya. Number four would be the I forgot the fourth one na very important. Ayun, it's the volume. Kung sino yung mga kung gaano karami bumibili or gaano karami nag-exchange of hands sa project na yun. Kasi sometimes parang maganda yung art, maganda yung ano. Pero I'm not saying it's not about the art. It's partly about the art, but in general, it's about the community behind the art. Kung ano yung ginagawa nila. One sample would be yung pinakita ko kanina na binili ni Steph Curry na apes. Actually have one of the yung before yung isang apes na ganun. And last November, they actually had a yacht party in New York wherein they invite couple holders, tapos may bring a friend ka isa, para may yacht party na sobrang laking yacht. And yun, some of the events may celebrity meetups, dinner with celebrities for charity, mga ganyan. So basically, you're being part of the community as a whole. Yun yung benefits niya.
Grabe, solid. So, kung nasilip nyo, no, yung OpenSea ni Boss JM, baka kung ano-anong NFTs yung makikita nyo doon, guys. So, I think this one is a relevant question and this one is an active participant sa ating Investa Pioneer Discord channel, no? And since yung topic mo, Boss JM, is yung bridging the gap between traditional and digital, no? Ang tanong ni Bulo Sehi, do you see equities trading moving towards blockchain technology?
Do you mean parang yung stocks gagamit ng blockchain technology? Parang ganun,
Yes.
no? So I think it's possible. Pero the thing with blockchain kasi, it's actually the thing with securities or equities trading, it's meant to be regulated. Kasi stocks share siya eh. Kumbaga share siya ng company. And if it's not regulated, mahirap. Anyone can list their companies, anyone can Kaya almost all ng mga crypto projects, they're not selling their shares. They're actually selling their tokens. Tokens that you can use to, for example, pwede mong pambili sa game nilang ilalabas. Pwede mong gamitin pambili ng Axie, ganyan. So yun yung purpose niya. Hindi siya actually shares from that company. So yun. Kasi pag shares talaga kailangan hindi mo i-bypass yung SEC eh. Kasi pag bypass mo sila, parang mawawala yung essence ng company. Kasi lahat ng shares dapat listed kay SEC. Lahat ng owners kailangan listed kay exchange or kay SEC. So once naging blockchain siya, anonymous na yung mga tao may hawak. So yun. Given that, I think it's really hard. I think it's more of di-disrupt talaga yung equity. It's more of parang ibang token talaga siya. But ito tokenize yung mga stocks or whatever na para magiging ano siya eh, fund. ETF, parang ganyan. Pina-follow niya lang or minimimic niya lang yung price nung, for example, may gumawa na, di ba? Tesla. So, instead of going to the exchange, they're selling Tesla coin. Si Binance before. So, ETF lang siya. Pina-follow niya lang yung movement ni Tesla. Yun yung mga legal. Pag hindi legal kasi mahirap. Hindi siya, I think never siya magiging legal kasi hindi talaga ma-track yung blockchain.
Gets. Tama. Medyo mahirap nga dahil regulated highly yung equities, no? Pero tama, merong ways to integrate yung crypto sa equity space. Siguro last question na, no? Because we are running out of time. And I think this one is relevant since binigyan yun ng importance kanina na kailangan talaga nagre-research tayo, kailangan updated. So yung tanong ni May dito ay para sa mga nagsisimula pa lang sa NFTs and crypto, what or where specifically is your recommended learning platform or channel or site to start with para matuto sila, Boss JM?
So yun, in the coming week siguro maglalabas kami ng mga lessons din sa Investa. Pero aside from that, you can check YouTube. Sobrang dami dyan na free learning pero kumbaga may laman. You just have to check kung ano yung may laman. Don't expect na these people are actually, well, sa equities, di ba? Kailangan nakasuit, very formal. Some of these people are actually, kumbaga yumaman sila because of crypto, because of NFT, na dati pang holder. So basically, hindi sila masyado formal kasi bata pa sila at the same time. Sa crypto, hindi naman talaga masyado formal eh. Kumbaga tawag nga dyan, degens eh. So degens meaning hold lang na hold regardless kung bumabagsak yung price. Pero yung experience nila kasi, yun yung nagdadala eh. So instead na very technical ka, gusto mo, nakasuit yung magtuturo. Ayan, sa YouTube ka, then number one social network nila is Twitter. So sa Twitter, andun lahat nung mga, basically influencers ng NFT. You just have to check kung sino-sino sila. Like, for example, magbigay na ako sample, sila Alex Becker, sila Praxi, ganyan. So, sobrang dami ng pwede mong i-follow sa Twitter and usually libre naman yung nila, learning nila and articles. So, very, kumbaga transparent. Walang secret kung ano yung sikreto mo, ano yung ganyan. So,
Alright, thank you for that, Boss JM. So tama, no? Abangan nyo rin, of course, si Investa. Kaya nga tayo may ganitong event because we really want to educate people in this space. In this space na sobrang bago, medyo nakakatakot pasukin. So thank you, Boss JM, for sharing your insights, your expertise no sa ating mga ka-Investa. Do you have any final words to the audience, Boss JM?
Ayun nga, to everyone, I hope may natutunan kayo kahit papano. And at the same time, I hope na you try to venture, not just venture, but also study kung ano nga ba yung NFTs, ano nga ba ito, ano nga ba yung blockchain, kung wala kayong idea. Kasi I think the world is currently moving dito sa space na to. Who knows one day, parang maging Ready Player One na yung mundo. If you can watch that movie, very siya eh. Parang sinadya siya eh. Parang Black Mirror type siya na sinadya to open the eyes of the people. And especially ngayong pandemic, hindi lang tayo papunta doon, papunta tayo doon ng mabilis sa mundong yun, wherein lahat very digital, lahat nasa metaverse. And paunti ng paunti, not just the attention span, but yung time na ini-spend natin outside our homes. So because of that, nagkakaroon ng opportunity ngayon na magpunta sa metaverse. And who knows, kung artist ka, you want to launch a project, i-launch mo lang. Kasi wala namang dyan eh. Kumbaga, in the in the blockchain world or metaverse, wala talagang mag-judge sa'yo na, ay, pangit ang art mo, pangit ang ganyan. It's a matter of trying to work hard at the same time, i-maximize mo yung technology sa paligid mo. Kung dati small time ka lang na artist, ngayon, pwede mo na siyang ipakilala sa mundo. Not just in the Philippines, but the world. Especially ngayon, hindi lang naman Pinoy makaka-appreciate sa art mo eh. Especially kung maganda siya. And sobrang daming opportunities sa labas ng Pilipinas. Hindi OFW, opportunities, kumbaga global scale. So, hindi na siya yung slow process na yun. Yun lang.
All right, so I'd like to introduce our next speaker, no? So tapos na si Boss JM, and speaking of NFT art, our next speaker is Boss Luis Buenaventura, and he will be speaking about how to get started with NFT art. So sa mga artists dyan or sa mga gustong mag-collect ng NFT art, this is the next session that is for you. So who is Luis, no? Luis is the country manager for the Philippines for the Yield Guild Games. It's a startup bringing metaversal income to emerging economies, and a co-founder of BloomX, a licensed cryptocurrency exchange. He's also one of the world's first NFT artists and is the first Filipino NFT artist to have work auctioned off at Christie's. So in September 2021, he founded the Crypto Pop Art Guild. It's a decentralized organization specializing on creating sustainable income for underprivileged Filipino artists. He has authored 2 books on cryptocurrencies, The Little Bitcoin Book, 2019, and Reinvesting in Remittances with Bitcoin. So I hope you guys are excited for this session. Unfortunately, he is not here with us live, so hindi tayo makakapag-ask ng questions, but he gave us a very comprehensive presentation for us to learn from. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Boss Luis here in our learning session.
Hey everyone, good day. My name is Luis Buenaventura. I am the country manager of YGG Philippines. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about NFTs, NFT art, and it's going to be a little bit of a 15-minute whirlwind tour because there's a lot of information. But hopefully you'll get enough out of this that you will actually kind of come away with some starter knowledge, and you'll be able to kind of do your own research and kind of get things going if it's something that you're actually interested in. So this presentation is entitled How to Start with NFT Art. And obviously you got to start with the actual acronym. I actually think that NFT is like the world's worst marketing term for actually a very fundamentally innovative idea, because not only is it kind of meaningless, NFT, but like it's one of those acronyms when you actually explain what the words mean. N means non, F means fungible, and T means token. It actually becomes more confusing rather than more clear what it actually is. And so what I like to tell people when I'm explaining this concept is I say, the token part is the important part, forget the non-fungible part, focus on the token part. The token part means that it is a representation of something. It is symbolic of something. And in this case, it is symbolic of what? It is symbolic of a certificate of ownership. And that means that it is not actually the thing itself. It is just a certificate of ownership in something. And that something could literally be anything. It just so happens that when you think about NFTs these days, it tends to be about NFT art. And so when I say that I'm buying NFT art, what I'm actually saying there is that I have bought a certificate of ownership in this artwork. I'm not buying the JPEG, I'm not buying the PNG or the MP4 or some file. I'm actually buying an ownership certificate that proves that I'm the one who owns this thing. And that is actually fundamentally very powerful, but I'll explain a little bit more about what the other characteristics of NFTs are first. The first one that is really, really important to artists and collectors alike is that with NFTs, with NFT technology, you can actually track provenance. So if you don't know what that means, provenance is the history of ownership of a given thing, right? And that means that, so if I produce artwork and I sell it to someone, when that person sells it to someone else, the NFT contains that traceable chain of ownership from kind of the current owner to the original owner to the creator, and then it actually remembers how much was paid for those transactions. So it's actually very cool to think about it because in most traditional kind of art platforms, this stuff is this is a service that you would normally have to pay for to find out who used to own this painting or who used to own this sculpture. That's not the case with NFTs. You get it for free just because it's built on blockchain. The second thing is even more powerful than that. It's the ability to generate royalties for an artist and pay those royalties automatically. So using myself as the example again, I'm the artist, I sell it to someone, that someone sells it to someone else. During that time, the someone selling it to someone else, a royalty fee is generated and it gets paid back to the artist automatically as soon as the transaction happens. And that happens also kind of for free in the sense that, it just happens automatically. I don't have to, ask the original owner, hey man, can you give me my share of this? It happens automatically. And that royalty could be anywhere from 1% to 10% of the principal amount, which is wonderful because that means that the artist continues to make money from their work even after they have already sold it. And if their value increases over time, the artist can sort of enjoy some of that, even though the bulk of it still ends up with the collectors. And that's fine. But the great thing about it is that this royalty payment thing, it actually works in perpetuity, meaning that for as long as the blockchain exists, the artists will receive some form of revenue from their work. And that's pretty cool. The fact that this is happening automatically, that's never been possible before in any other version of this stuff. So I've been talking a little bit about what makes NFTs cool. What is NFT art? Well, it's a new type of digital art. I think I already talked about this a little bit earlier, where the NFTs are a certificate of ownership in the artwork. And what does that allow people to do? It allows them to say that they actually have the artist's own certified version of the work, and they are the ones who own it. And it means that they also have the right to resell that work to someone else. And that sets off all sorts of interesting market dynamics, because it means that it's possible that these collectors could speculate on a young up-and-coming artist, pay not so high a price for it, but then also resell it to someone else, maybe at a 5 or 10 times multiple. And that's a pretty good investment, right? And that's happening all the time in NFT art. That's actually one of the main driving forces for the current success of NFT art. Now, when I say success, I guess you're probably wondering, how mainstream is this really? Because, people talk about it. I've never actually seen it in action. Well, okay, so let me show you this. This is a screenshot from Christie's.com. So Christie's, if you don't know, this is a 400-year-old art auction house. It is the world's oldest auction house. This is where you go to buy Leonardo da Vinci's work. So Bill Gates famously paid $30 million to buy Leonardo da Vinci's notebook in a Christie's auction. Very recently, just in early October, a collection, an NFT art collection that I participated in 2017 was auctioned at Christie's. So I became the first Filipino NFT artist to be auctioned at a traditional auction house. And there was an actual live auctioneer, and he was calling out the bids. And the collection sold for 393 Ethereum, which is roughly about $1.2 million. So it was a pretty substantial sale. And this collection continues to be a very popular example of early NFT art. In fact, the Curio Cards collection is actually the world's first NFT art collection. That's why it was valued so highly. Now, I wanted to kind of just give you guys a little bit of context around just art in general here in the Philippines, just to kind of give you guys a sense of like where I'm talking from. No? So this slide here You don't have to read the rest of it, but I'll just explain this part. This slide here shows you how much money we made as an entire country from visual arts. So meaning, our import, our export of everything from paintings to sculptures, all of that stuff, including photography, things like that. In 2019, this year over here, in 2019, we made $84 million. This is the entire Philippines visual art industry. So $84 million in 2019. So that's the only number that you have to keep in your head. You don't have to read the rest of this. Keep that number in mind. I'm going to show you something else that's quite interesting. So remember the curio cards collection from the first slide. In the last 8 months, it has made 32,000 Ethereum. It has been traded by collectors and speculators and investors. And in total, the amount of trade volume it has generated is 32,000 Ethereum. That equates to a little over $120 million. The Curio Cards collection had 7 artists in it, including myself, and so I was the only Filipino in it. But it has basically done more trade volume than the entire country of the Philippines' entire traditional art industry. And they've done it in less time also, because this was only 8 months worth of sales. So what can we glean from that? The fact that NFT art is already larger than most countries' entire art industries. Is it mainstream yet? Still not, because I guess there's still not that many Filipino artists who are into it, but it's already so big that it's impossible to ignore. And it would be almost irresponsible for you to ignore. If you are an art aficionado, if you own a gallery, if you own a museum, if you're a traditional artist who is trying to explore this stuff, you need to look at this right now, because it's already making a lot of artists very profitable. It's minting new artists into kind of this world where they're actually able to quit their jobs and just become full-time artists now. And it's such an inspiring opportunity because, like I joined that art collection kind of, even though I was a Filipino, I was still part of it. NFT art does not care where you are or where you're from. And a lot of artists from the traditional realm, they struggle to be noticed in venues like New York or Hong Kong or Tokyo or Paris, because those are the actual art centers of the world. But NFT art doesn't care. So I don't even live in Metro Manila. I live in La Union, and I managed to kind of hit numbers like this, just by virtue of the fact that NFT art reduces or removes those traditional borders. So it's a very important kind of space to start looking at. And I think that, at the very least, you should try to learn more about it. And I guess that was kind of one of the goals of this talk, to just kind of whet your appetite enough to encourage people to start looking into it directly. Let's go through a couple of questions so you guys know where to begin. Where and how is NFT art sold? So, artists like me, they can exhibit and sell their work in what we call NFT marketplaces. And there's quite a few of them. These are just websites, essentially. So these are just websites. The most popular one is OpenSea. And then there's others, Super Rare, Nifty Gateway, Maker's Place, etc., etc. There's about 36 of these. And the way that I will differentiate them for you is that some of them are completely open and some of them are moderated. And that makes a big difference. OpenSea, as you can probably guess by the name, is completely open, meaning that any artist from anywhere can just literally sign up and plunk their artwork in there and then put a price on it and hope someone buys it. And that's all. Now, the other marketplaces that are listed here, Super Rare, Nifty Gateway, and Maker's Place, are all moderated marketplaces. And what does that mean? It means that the artists need to go through a verification process, they need to go through an approval process, and these marketplaces will actually help them promote their work. So it's a little bit closer to the average gallery or museum, where these venues, they actually work to help promote the artist. No? And because of that, they actually ask for a much larger cut. these moderated marketplaces will ask for somewhere between 20 and 25% of whatever sales the artist makes, whereas OpenSea only asks for 1%. But on OpenSea, you're kind of on your own. There's no one who's going to help you to promote. And as you can probably imagine, because it's completely open, you will get literally hundreds of thousands of artists selling their work there, which makes it very hard to get noticed. So it's kind of up to you, if you have enough of a following already, to invite people to buy your stuff on OpenSea or any of those other marketplaces, really. So these are just screenshots. So this is Nifty Gateway and Maker's Place. I will say that the art styles there are very, very diverse, and it certainly does not matter if you are a fine artist or if you are an illustrator, or a graphic designer. The internet is big. You will find an audience as long as you are good and you're consistent and there's something unique about you. So generally, it doesn't matter what kind of style you have. This is an example of a Filipino collection called Zodiac. The group is called Nara Gallery. The entire collection made about $110,000 in sales a couple of months back. So some of these are friends of mine. And they were sold on Nifty Gateway, one of the marketplaces we were talking about earlier. If you want to see who the other crypto artists are in the Philippines right now, you just go on Twitter, you type in the crypto art PH hashtag, and you'll see a whole bunch of people who are already very active in the NFT art scene here. So it's certainly growing, although we are not nearly as well represented as, say, the American community or the European community. But we're not at zero. And there's definitely a lot of Filipinos who are currently trying to make a name for themselves in this new arena. And it's just very exciting and inspiring to watch. How do you get started? And I'm conscious that I'm running out of time here, so I just want to kind of zip through this really quickly. You buy NFTs using cryptocurrencies in general. And what you'll need is a cryptocurrency wallet. And MetaMask is the one that most people will recommend, because MetaMask just plugs in right into your browser. So it actually makes it very easy to use. So it'll actually sit on your browser and offer to help you if you want to buy something. So it's kind of cool. So we recommend this one. You will also need to have cryptocurrencies. Ethereum is the most kind of accepted of the cryptocurrencies. But there are many others also that other artists will also accept as payment for their work. You can buy those from exchanges like Coins or Binance or Coinbase, etc. And then the final step is you just go and buy some art. You go to one of those marketplaces, you see something you like. If you can afford it, you hit buy now, and then your MetaMask wallet will helpfully ask for your approval or your confirmation before it actually executes the transaction. And it happens atomically. So as soon as your Ethereum gets sent, the art token, the NFT, gets sent to you, and you're done. The art will sit in your MetaMask wallet, kind of like your cryptocurrencies as well. And you can do whatever you want with it. You can sell it again. You can hold it for as long as you want. You can even start an auction and see if anyone is willing to pay even more for this work than you just did, right? And again, I mentioned this earlier, the whole speculative art investment scene is massive in NFT art, because all of these guys are from the crypto realm, right? So they're all about speculation and investments and things like that. So you're going to see a lot of that same activity here. This is just a screenshot of what it looks like if you're an artist naman, and this is a screenshot of MetaMask as you're making a payment. So it just kind of pops up beside your browser window very helpfully. So it's quite easy to use. And that's kind of it. I'm just going to end with this one quick plug. Although I am the country manager of YDG, one of my initiatives is a thing called the Crypto Pop Art Guild. It's a organization for artists who are Filipino, but from underprivileged or marginalized communities. So they're from low-income households. And what we're doing is we are mentoring them to become NFT artists so that they can make enough money to, basically pursue their real passion, which is they want to make art, but they have not been able to find a good path to doing that because it's hard to find work as an artist during a lockdown. So this whole concept of Crypto Pop Art Guild, which we're calling CPAG for short, is we're trying to open up these doors for these other artists to find their way in the NFT art world. If you want to find out more about us, we're at fb.com/cryptopop, or on Twitter, we are twitter.com/cryptopopart. And that's it. I hope you found this informational, educational, entertaining. And if you have questions, please find me at these links. And thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
All right, so that's for Boss Luis's session, no, about crypto, about NFT art rather. So I hope you guys learned a lot. Unfortunately, wala siya ngayon because they have a live event, no? So huwag kayong mag-alala because makakasama pa natin siguro si Boss Luis, no? We will be in talk with Boss Luis para makasama natin siya sa Team Investa in different sessions as well. No? So abangan nyo yan, guys, and I hope nag-enjoy kayo dun sa session. The next one is is a very interesting session about the state of crypto in 2022. So our next speaker is Boss Javi Medina. So I'd like to just read his bio, no, for a while. So Boss Javi is an Asian Poker Tour champion turned 3-time stock market competition winner, including the champion of the first ever Investagrams Cup in 2017. No, so for the past 6 years, he's also been a consultant and lecturer for topics on classical technical analysis, trend following systems, Elliott wave risk management, and trading psychology. And I'm sure marami dito ang fans ni Boss Javi. No, he is also the managing director and chief investment officer of Buhawi Investment Management and one of the co-founders of Open Journal. No, it's a subscription-based research service that was founded in 2019 to help warn Filipinos about a pending market crash. Currently, the service is geared to helping retail traders and investors to pursue major opportunities, primarily in the cryptocurrency markets and in the local equity market. So I hope you guys are excited, and I would like to call on Boss Havs, no, in the stream with us today. Boss Javi, are you here? Yon, kumusta Boss Javi?
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Good evening. Good evening, Boss Havs, and welcome to the stream. I hope na, I think maraming excited talaga sa iyong session. So, I'd like to give the floor to you. Javi, would you like me to share the screen for you, your presentation?
I can share it myself. Thank you.
All right.
Um,
I think, sige, I'll open it here in the stream and maybe you can click to there. All right.
so just give me a moment to figure the StreamYard out. I am uploading my presentation right now. Right, so while things are loading, I'd like to say good evening and happy weekend, happy Saturday to everyone here. Thank you for giving us your weekend time. And we hope that over the next 15-20 minutes, we can help serve and help you, right? Especially with all the volatility that's happening. The title of my presentation today is essentially the state of crypto for 2022. And that's not to be misunderstood as anything predictive. That's not why I'm here today. I don't have a crystal ball, but rather to share with you where we're focused, right? What are the major themes that we're looking at for 2022 trading and investment teams? And also, more importantly, the risks that we're watching out for, right? And the major risks that we are pretty much focused on to help us navigate the volatility. And as I think most traders already know here, or investors, it's not really what you make, whether in crypto or equity markets, it's really what you keep, right? And that's really what our focus on. And I know a lot of people have pointed out a lot of reasons as to what the recent volatility is, whether it's Evergrande or other issues that may be happening in China, so on and so forth. But what I'd like to help you guys today is really zone in and understand what the key drivers are of the crypto market, so that moving forward in 2022, we can help you stay even more focused and to watch the things that actually matter, so that when the time comes, you can make the right decision for your own crypto portfolios. So without further ado, I would like to proceed first with a disclosure. Obviously, I'm not exact. Well, obviously, everything that I'm going to say here is purely for educational purposes and should not be taken as investment advice, right? So, what I'm sharing here what I'll be sharing here are essentially what me and my team have been working on, and what me and my team are pretty much focused on in terms of helping manage our positions. So to begin, one of the best traders in the world always says everything starts with a chart, and that's what I like to do today. To start with a chart, essentially Peter Brand's parabolic advanced study. And the chart that you have in front of you is a chart of Bitcoin. And I wanted to start with this because this is essentially the chart that served as the catalyst for me and my team back in June, July 2019 to really make the decision to pivot to cryptocurrency, as it is with BIM, the investment firm, and as it is with our community, Open Journal. And the chart that I'm showing in front of you is a chart of Bitcoin. That's the line chart you'll see there. But more importantly, you're going to see 4 parabolic arcs in front of you, right? So you have those 4 parabolic arcs that are colored black. And these are parabolic arcs that are these aren't drawn by me. These are by Peter Brandt, and most people know Peter Brandt as a classic technician, one of the OGs featured in the book Market Wizards. And he's pretty much been trading commodity markets, futures markets, and equities for the last 50, 60 years. And what he pointed out in this chart, which was sent to him by Rao Pal of Real Vision, was number one, he, in his 50, 60 years of trading financial markets, has never, and this is not hyperbole, this is fact, he has never encountered an asset on a logarithmic chart, which is what we have, that's the settings here. He has never encountered a financial security on a logarithmic chart that stayed above a parabolic uptrend, meaning that curving uptrend that you see, those 4 curving uptrends. He said that he's never seen a financial security that's pretty much held above that level of support. And he even went to the extent of backtesting this against the strongest .com stocks back in the late 90s. He tested this against Yahoo, against Amazon, and against other strong issues that maybe most of us have never even heard of anymore. But the bottom line is that all of the stocks that he tested, and even I think he even mentioned that he tested it in sugar back in the late 70s or 80s when you had that inflationary boom, which pushed oil 15 times, which pushed a lot of commodities higher. So he tested this a lot of the financial stocks and assets. And all of those assets, tests, commodities, and dot-com stocks pretty much failed to stay above that parabolic curved advance. And the conclusion that he came to was, first is obviously wow, and second is that the relative strength of at least Bitcoin during that time, this was June, July, August 2019, was pretty much the highest he's ever seen in history. And because of that, he said that this is a market or a security that I should be focused on trading. And I know a lot of traders may be listening in, and obviously every real trader out there knows that our capital should be allocated to the path of least resistance, right? What Jesse Livermore calls the path of least resistance, meaning the lowest hanging fruit for you to be able to make money. And that is essentially the asset class or the security with the highest relative strength. And when I saw this during the time, this was, as an equity guy, a professional equity guy for the last 10 years at the time, managing money professionally in financial markets, I pretty much told myself that, as a guy that has a process that I follow, meaning I stick with the strongest sectors and the strongest securities in the market, I pretty much had no choice but to, this is where the money is going to be made, and looking back, where the wealth is going to be built. And that's certainly been the case the last 2 years. If you look at most of the people that made money, it's really been the people in the cryptocurrency market. So fast forward today, the second point that I'd like to bring up is that since this is the second point I'd like to bring up is that if you look at how financial markets have historically worked, right? Whether it's 10 years ago, 100 years ago, the principle that always applies is that money never chases value, or at least majority, right? Majority of money never really chases value. It chases performance. I'll repeat, money or majority of funds flow, whether that's institutional, certainly retail, never really chases value as the primary driver. It chases performance, right? And if you look at, let's say, the cryptocurrency market, that is pretty much what we're seeing, right? You're seeing a huge adoption, not just of the technology, but of people in the financial space pretty much looking to trade cryptocurrency. So as early as last year, you had some of the guys that we follow in the equity space, like Mark Ritchie too, and a lot of other traders featured in some of the books that you've read, started to really shift their focus to cryptocurrency. And that's precisely why, if you look at, and now this is just my opinion is that we are in the beginning of a secular shift, meaning it's a secular trend, meaning a long-term trend, 15 to 25 years. We're in the beginning of a secular trend or shift of assets moving from traditional markets to financial markets, of professional smart money looking to trade cryptocurrency versus traditional assets. And you can look no further than just looking at the market cap of, let's say, the total cryptocurrency space. If you look at the total cryptocurrency market cap right now, that cryptocurrency market cap figure is around $3 trillion. And depending on the estimates or who you talk to, whether you talk to, and there are a lot of guys who have been very vocal about this. You have Dan Moorhead of Pantera, you have Dan Tapiero of DTCap, you have Mark Yusko, and obviously Raul Tal, talking about how by the end of the decade, the size of the cryptocurrency market cap, depending on how conservative or how aggressive the person speaking, they're estimating that this market could reach somewhere between 20 trillion to around 200 trillion, right? So you have 20 trillion whose Mark Yusko is more conservative, and you have the 200 trillion estimate, which is really by Raul Pal. And the logic there, and if you're a trader or an investor and you're pretty much looking, you're simply using common sense to decide where to allocate capital. Am I going to allocate capital in a cryptocurrency market that's currently at 2 to 3 trillion? And by the end of this decade, after 7-8 years, has a potential to reach 20 to 200 trillion. That simply means is that minus 3 trillion, there's going to be 197 trillion to, there's going to be 17 to 197 trillion of wealth that is supposed to be made over the next 10 years, right? Versus, let's say, compare that to the Philippine stock market, which is currently a $250 billion market cap. And I'll just leave it to your imagination as to where we'll be by the end of this decade, right? Whether we double at another 250 billion dollars, or do we stay the same as to where we are, or do we go down, right? So that's really the so that's really the second point, is that I honestly think that over the next decade we're seeing a secular shift in terms of money traded going from traditional markets to financial markets. And I think we're already seeing anecdotal evidences of this. If you look at the foreign participation share in the Philippine stock market, from 2010 to 2020, pre-pandemic, that has been 50-50 on average. And post-pandemic, that share of foreign participation has jumped to 60%. So this is a study by Phil Equity in one of their Monday morning columns. And while I don't know, or I can only speculate as to what the reasons are there, my speculation is a lot of that money is really trading or moving to trade not just cryptocurrency, but also US financial markets. Certainly because of the accessibility, but more importantly, because of money simply goes where money can be made, right? And if you've been trading cryptocurrency markets, and if you have enough skill and you know how to manage risk, then cryptocurrency certainly provides a great opportunity. It's a great time to be a trader, certainly with the cryptocurrency market. So the third point I'd like to bring up before I move on from this chart is, if you actually follow Peter Brandt on Twitter, the guy who provided the study, he actually suggested that this parabolic uptrend, the fourth parabolic uptrend, the one you see to your right side, has actually been broken, right? The recent volatility, it's at least the 2 weeks ago when we had that major sell-off, he posted that a break of that parabolic uptrend, which suggests that maybe the bull market may be in question. Although that was 2 weeks ago. If you look at that parabolic uptrend today, and certainly since 2 weeks ago, prices have recovered. We're certainly hovering above that parabolic uptrend line. So I'm not really of the view that it's broken. I'm just really, especially as prices came back, I'm thinking that, okay, prices are still there and prices have still yet to make a decision. And that's certainly something that we're looking at least for Bitcoin, even though we don't have any investment whatsoever in Bitcoin. That's something that we're certainly looking at, as that will pretty much drive the sentiment of the market, at least for 2022. So that's one thing we're looking at. I'll move on to the next chart. This is obviously the chart of MicroStrategy, who is the #1 institutional holder of Bitcoin. Most of you may not know MicroStrategy, but you may know Michael Taylor, Michael Saylor, sorry, Michael Saylor, who has been pretty much the white knight charging, who has been the leader of the Bitcoin bulls, arguably, right? And who's been buying every dip. And what you see here is essentially a break of support of that MSTR. Don't mind the fib retracement study. That those are for at least people who understand how to use it. But what you want to focus on is the red line at the middle of the chart, which shows you that at least the last week prices pretty much broke through support. And for those of you who aren't familiar with technical analysis, a breakdown of support is simply a beginning of a downtrend, right? While that can certainly be the case for micro strategy, at least a short-term downtrend, to be clear, that doesn't necessarily mean that Bitcoin will also move into a downtrend. Remember, MicroStrategy is also affected by the down move that we've had in the NASDAQ market or the US market, that even while the S&P 500 and Dow Jones and NASDAQ are still at all-time highs, or at least 5% from the all-time high, you're seeing a lot of the leadership, the market leadership, stocks like Docu, Palantir, Peloton, and all these post-pandemic growth stocks, the leaders pretty much get wrecked, right? If I could borrow a cryptocurrency term. And things aren't really looking underneath the hood, at least for the US market. And that obviously has spilled over into MicroStrategy, which is number one or the biggest holder of Bitcoin. So the third chart that I'd like to share with you, at least as one of the major themes for 2022, is at least me and my team are of the belief that 2022 will not be focused around Bitcoin as the general of any bullish sentiment, if any, but it will be really led by Ethereum. And what you have here in front of you is simply a chart of Ethereum, Bitcoin, that's ETH, BTC. That's a weekly chart that you have in front of you that spans all the way till the 2018 peak. And for those of you who are familiar with classic technical analysis, I have a simple lines drawn here to show you that if you look at the ETH BTC chart, if you look at the bottom part of the chart, you'll see that you'll see an inverted head and shoulders, which is a basic reversal pattern that reverses the trend from down to up, which means that from the middle of the chart all the way to the right side, where now we've been moving higher, we've broken out of that inverse head and shoulders pattern. And perhaps I can is my arrow visible, Renzo? Can I use my arrow to at least show them, or is that not visible here?
Currently, no, it's
Okay.
not seen.
So it's fine, right? So moving back to the chart, you'll see that vertical move above that inverse head and shoulders. And for the last pretty much couple of months, 6 months, it's been basing out, right? Meaning it's been moving sideways into a sideways pattern. You'll see that, and you'll see that it's broken out of that sideways pattern on the upper right side of your screen. You'll see it's broken out because it pushed above the short red line, that short, slightly horizontal red line, and a breakout of that line is a simple indication that the ETH versus BTC will now be strengthening or will now be moving higher. So just a quick caveat, this is not 100% indication that Ethereum is going up. This can simply also mean that Bitcoin or Ethereum will be falling at a much slower pace than Bitcoin. That can certainly drive this chart higher as well. But what I'd like to show you, or what I'd like to keep you focused on, is the long horizontal line on top, which is at around the 15 or the 0.15 area. And we're currently at the 0.08 area, which tells me that at least for the next 6 to 12 months, if you simply take 15 divided by 8, then the pace of which ETH will outperform BTC is by around ×2, which means that, let's say, for the next 6 to 12 months, if ETH will be going higher, then it will be going higher at a pace 2 times the rate of Bitcoin. Or let's say if we have the market going down, then Ethereum will be going down at a rate that is half the rate of decline of Bitcoin. So that's simply all that it says. And for those of you who Ethereum geeks out there, most of you may also be thinking that Ethereum is going to be a major play for 2022, especially with a merge coming in. That's at least Ethereum 1, the proof of work merging with the Beacon chain, which is essentially the proof of stake. Now, there's certainly been a lot of back and forth with respect to the timeline of that, but my recent check right before this presentation on their website, Ethereum Foundation, suggests that that merge, that transition from proof of work to proof of stake for Ethereum will happen this June 2022. So that's around 6 months from now. And that's certainly a catalyst that can really push Ethereum higher. And that pretty much explains why Ethereum is moving at a pace that is double the strength of Bitcoin. And maybe some of you may be asking, what exactly is the merge? What is the transition from proof of work to proof of stake? I mean, without going to details, what that simply does from a demand-supply dynamic is that it pretty much reduces the supply of Ethereum dramatically. And when I say reduce the Ethereum supply dramatically, if you look at, if you look at it on a comparable basis to, let's say, the halving, which happens for Bitcoin every 4 years, it's essentially, it has the same effect as 3 times the halving with respect to the Ethereum supply. To be specific, I don't know what the exact number is, but I think it cuts the Ethereum supply by around 1/8 of that, of the current supply. So common sense would dictate that, let's say, if you have demand coming in to the cryptocurrency space, and institutions have certainly been coming into Ethereum and Bitcoin at a rate of 113% per year since Bitcoin started. That's the current adoption rate. That's the average adoption rate. That's 2 times the adoption rate versus the internet, which was at 60% during the course of the 90s prior to the dot-com peak. So if you have supply, or if you have demand that is growing at 113% per year, and then you have supply that dramatically goes down, right? Then obviously from just a demand supply point of view, that pushes prices higher. So that's certainly a theme that we're looking at for 2022. We think that 2022 will be all about Ethereum more than Bitcoin. And I'm sure I may get a question later in the Q&A. So do you see Ethereum market cap overtaking Bitcoin? I don't know, right? I really have no answer to that. But you will certainly see the market cap of Ethereum increase at a faster rate than the market cap of Bitcoin for 2022. So that's basically a major theme that we're looking at. Other things for Ethereum. So just a few other points. Obviously, proof of stake is something that is less political versus proof of work. And I'm not sure if you guys have been following the news, at least in the States. And the biggest problem that they have really right now in the States, or at least from a consumer point of view, and certainly from a financial markets and a politician's point of view, is the word inflation. And obviously, if you take a look at something like proof of work, which is very energy intensive, then that creates at least it doesn't, while you can argue over the long term what the benefits to inflation will be, at least in the short term, there are a lot of, it's highly politicized, and a transition to more proof of stake is something that is actually more favorable, at least to the market, given the current sentiment. So yeah, I think that's pretty much about Ethereum. I think I have another chart here about Ethereum, and this is an on-chain chart, an on-chain analytics by Willy Woo, who is essentially one of the pioneers of on-chain analytics. So one of the way you can think about on-chain analytics is that fundamental analysis is to stocks, as on-chain analytics is to cryptocurrency. Because what it on-chain analytics really studies, it studies the funds flow in and out of exchanges and into cold storage, in and out of cold storage and into exchanges. Like the money, it studies funds flow, essentially. And if you look at on-chain analytics now, on-chain analytics is, although Willy Woo would always say that he has a 70 to 80% hit ratio, at least with his analysis since he started, on-chain analytics are really painting a favorable picture for both Bitcoin and Ethereum in 2022. And the chart that you'll see here in front of you is on-chain demand. That is the violet chart at the bottom, continues to at least go to all-time highs, even while price pulls back, or even with all the volatility, right? So if you take a look at Ethereum, one of the ways to measure the efficacy of, let's say, a technology like Ethereum is to really look at how much value is currently flowing into Bitcoin, or how much, or is currently flowing into Ethereum, or how much money is really committing itself to do business on top of the Ethereum platform, or in the Ethereum ecosystem. And that number right now is somewhere at around 180 billion last time I checked. So that's a total value locked. There's $180 billion that's currently locked. And that's certainly the farthest from its closest competitor, which is Solana. Solana, which is currently at around 14.9, somewhere 15 billion, thereabout. So it's more than times 10. So you can actually look at it like 9.3 out of 10 people are choosing to do business in Ethereum, more than Solana or more than any other chain. And more so, if you look at some of the technologies or the scaling solutions on top of Ethereum, I'm trying my best not to use any jargon, but if you look at some of the other scaling solutions, such as Matic, such as Arbitrum, such as Starkware, you're seeing that these chains recently crossed the $10 billion mark, which means that obviously when I talk about Ethereum, a lot of people in the audience are thinking, why are people using it when the gas fees are very high? It's so expensive to mint an NFT. Why should I do it there? I should just do it in Solana, right? And the simple answer to that is there are layer twos on top that are actually doing a lot of the transactions, right? So you have 10 billion that's already out of the 10 billion worth that's already doing value on layer 2 transactions on top of Ethereum. And not only that, what I mentioned earlier, the merge, which had happened in June 2022, should or is designed to really bring down Ethereum gas prices, right? And it helps to do that by also increasing the throughput of the chain, or increasing the number of transactions per second that that Ethereum can handle, from where it is currently at 15, right? Compared to, let's say, something like Visa at around 60,000 transactions per second. So all this money is moving to Ethereum because they see that, let's say, come merge June 2022, and with all the scaling solutions coming in, I mentioned Matic, Arbitrum, obviously those chains are developing a lot of new technologies, such as ZK rollups and optimism-based rollups that are supposed to increase transactions per second from 15 to 1,000. So I just won't go into the details there, but the bottom line is that the fundamentals are supportive of a theme towards Ethereum in 2022 versus Bitcoin. And you can see just by measuring the total value locked and what technologies are coming in to essentially bring down the gas fees by increasing the number of transactions per second from 15 to thousands, as to where closer to its other layer one competitors, right? So that's really what we have for Ethereum. So the next chart I'd like to show you is obviously everybody who is an investor or a trader in cryptocurrency market knows about Plan B and the famous stock to flow model. And what this chart simply shows is that we're pretty much at the, and this is what this chart is saying, is that we could be at close to the tail end of this bull market. This chart certainly suggests, or Plan B certainly suggests, that you have one more leg higher to this bull market. I honestly don't know if that's the case. I really have no opinion to that. My job as a risk manager is to simply, watch what the markets are doing and to respond based on that. And what I can only do, as I'm doing with you guys today, is to share with you what I'm watching, so that I may respond based on what the market will be doing eventually, and not essentially say, oh, there's one more leg higher and therefore you should hold, right? So that's so I won't go into the details of this, but this certainly suggests that, at least for Bitcoin, you have one more leg higher from a valuations point of view, from a stock to model point of view. So we can skip this, or we can move forward past this. And because what I want to highlight today as well, because I showed you a lot of charts previously over the last, let's say, 5 charts that could be key themes for 2022. But what I want to show you, which arguably is more important, are the risks that we're watching out for. And maybe also to help you guys understand what exactly is causing the volatility that we're seeing in financial markets, not just in cryptocurrency markets, but also in the US stock market, and to a certain extent, even the local Philippine stock market. And before I even go to explaining this chart, I want to at least preface this chart by explaining to at least our listeners here, with the objective of helping you understand why cryptocurrencies went up in the first place. And the period that I'm referring to is how the cryptocurrency space went up from the pandemic low, that's March 2020, all the way to where it is today. And if you look at during the pandemic low, Bitcoin was at 3,000, Ethereum was, I believe, 2 digits, I think 100 or 90 or 200, thereabouts. And obviously prices are, have grown exponentially since then. And while most people will cite that, it's a new technology, adoption rate is the highest it's ever been in pretty much technological history. It's growing 2 times faster than the internet. and you have all these institutions coming in, I would argue, and this is based on my experience from financial markets the last 10 years, and just really studying how a lot of the top people look at markets. I would submit that the number one driver for cryptocurrency prices the last, let's say, post-pandemic period, let's call that close to 2 years, let's say 20 months, 21 months to be exact, is really because of the liquidity. I'll repeat, liquidity. And what I mean by liquidity is all the money that was pumped into the global economy to fight the pandemic. And let's review. March 2020, we had a pandemic. And in order, so let's just go through the facts. We had a pandemic. We had the highest unemployment rate pretty much since the Great Depression. You had the largest rate of change in terms of GDP decline. And you had the largest, maybe the fastest crash that we've seen, right? Outside of the Black Monday 1987 crash. And if you go through the facts, what politicians and central banks did around the world to solve the problem was to throw money at it, to really put it in simple terms. And when you talk about throwing money at the problem, if you look at how much money was thrown, if you simply look at the total amount of US dollars that exist in the system today, meaning if you count the amount of dollars that circulates not just in the US economy, but outside the US economy, meaning in the global economy, a startling fact is that 40%, that's 40% of all the existing US dollars that are circulating today in the global economy did not exist before the pandemic. That's 40%, right? And there's a lot of studies that's been done on this, primarily by Raul Pal of Real Vision, to his credit. And what you'll find is that what really pushed up all asset prices post-pandemic is all the liquidity that was printed, primarily by the US Central Bank and by the major G7 central banks around the world. If you look at the US alone, they printed, so if you look at the total money in the system as measured by the balance sheet of their central bank, that was around $3 trillion pre-pandemic. And post-pandemic, that has ballooned to $8 trillion, right? More than times two. And that's pretty much what they did to fight the economy, or not to fight the economy, but to save the economy and to fight the pandemic. Why? Simply because if you want to stimulate an economy, what you need is you need to pump more money in the system. Why? Because when you pump more money in the system, then obviously the additional money has the potential, if confidence is there, to find itself to consumption, but more importantly to investing in asset prices. And that's precisely why pretty much all asset prices went up. And what's interesting is that, and again, this is a study really done by Raul Pal of Real Vision, what you'll find is if you index all the asset prices that went up post-pandemic, let's say you index US real estate, if you index the S&P 500, if you index gold prices, if you index emerging markets, if you index the European stock market, if you index them, if you use that, every single one of those as the numerator, and use the increase of the money supply, meaning all the money that was printed additionally as the denominator, then you'll see that the ratio is really 1:1, right? It's not exactly 1:1, but it's freakishly close to 1:1, which simply means is that was really your primary driver right there. Obviously, there are other drivers such as the reopening and the vaccine, but I would argue that those are secondary drivers. The biggest part of really the equation is the liquidity. And going back to the point that I made, all those assets moved 1:1. As liquidity moved higher, then those markets move higher 1:1. And what's interesting is that in the same study, it was cited that there were only two assets that outperformed the increase in the liquidity. And those were the NASDAQ, meaning the technology stocks, the growth stocks. And I'm saying this this was before the last 2 weeks that happened. So it was the NASDAQ technology stocks, obviously because the pandemic, it accelerates the digitization of everything, pushes everything online. And second, the market, which performed the strongest, even stronger than the NASDAQ, multiples, the liquidity, the growth in liquidity was really the cryptocurrency markets. And to the point that you have guys like Paul Tudor Jones, and for those listeners who aren't watching, Paul Tudor Jones is maybe, I wouldn't say the top trader of our lifetime. I would maybe give that to Mark Minervini, but he's definitely a top 5 trader of financial history, right? And that's certainly. And if you look at what Paul Tudor Jones says, he even talks about Bitcoin being the fastest horse, right? In this whole environment of liquidity pumping that's happened, both by the central bank side, meaning the monetary side, and the fiscal side of the liquidity pumping, which gave checks directly to citizens, such as what we saw in the States and other countries, and to a very little extent here in the Philippines in the form of AIDA. So that's really what I want to preface everything with, right? That if you look at, obviously you guys can have a different perspective and different opinion on this, and we'll completely respect that. But from our experience, or at least what we're focused on for 2022, is that we're looking at essentially the dollar, right? We're looking, not exactly the dollar, sorry, but we're looking at the liquidity or the change of liquidity for 2022. Because the basic logic is that if the liquidity was the number one driver for crypto prices post-pandemic, then what happens if that liquidity mechanic starts to reverse? And that's really what my next few slides are about, because we're now starting to see that liquidity pretty much being pulled back, right? Being pulled back by central banks in particular. A measure that you can use is a financial measure called M2, right? You don't really need to Google what the M2 percentage is. You just need to watch the Kathy Wood videos, and she gives the M2 figure there. And what you'll learn is that M2 has been pretty much declining from plus 27%, that's the beginning of this year, Q1 this year, to around where it is today at plus 13, plus 12%. So yes, we are still in the process of having more liquidity come into the system. But the rate of change of which the liquidity is coming into the system is rapidly declining. And for me, as someone that really follows liquidity as maybe the main driver as to whether I want to be aggressive in cryptos or whether I want to be defensive and stay on the sidelines and protect the profits that have made, that's really the number one thing I'm looking at. And the best chart that you can really look at for that is really the dollar. And that's really where we come to this chart in front of us here right now. Why? Because when we talk about liquidity, as liquidity is being pumped into the system, that is essentially more dollars being pumped into the system. And when you have more dollars that is being pumped into the system, as most people know, basic demand supply, economics 101, is that when you have more supply of something, the price or the value goes down, right? And that's really what we saw, at least post-pandemic, right? So post-pandemic, we saw the main dollar index go from 100 plus, where it was, all the way down to the high 80s. And that really served as a measure and a tailwind pretty much for cryptocurrency prices. Now, what I have in front of you today is the Bitcoin chart overlaid with the dollar chart. So the DXY index is simply the dollar chart, right? You can, if for those of you traders out there, you can look at this, it's dollar, it's ticker symbol DXY. And what we have here, and this is a chart care of Delphi Digital, and what you have here is a dollar index that is inverted, which tells you, kasi syempre, when the dollar is moving lower, meaning liquidity is increasing, cryptocurrency prices are moving higher, right? Which means that they go opposite. And what we did here is that we inverted it so that you can actually see them go in lockstep, pretty much, right? So you'll see here on the left side, the white line is the price of Bitcoin. As Bitcoin goes higher, so does liquidity, right? Sorry, if you look at the orange chart, which is Bitcoin, Bitcoin goes higher as the white, meaning liquidity goes higher. And since this is an inverted DXY, if you look at the actual DXY chart, meaning the DXY is going lower, which means more dollars are being printed. And what's interesting right now is that the reason why we're seeing so much volatility in Bitcoin and other of these crypto assets, and not just even crypto, but also the Philippine market, the US market, is because the number one driver, meaning the dollars that are circulating in the system, which is supposed to buoy, to keep asset prices buoyant, are now being pulled back. And that's really what we're seeing now with the dollar chart that you're seeing here. You'll see that the dollar chart is already starting to move down. And this is inverted, which means in actuality, it's moving higher. And that's really a measure of liquidity being reined in by the central bank, right? By the central bank or by the United States Central Bank as the primary influencer, the primary driver of asset prices pretty much around the world. So that's pretty much, I know a lot of people are talking about, Evergrande and how there's not much, and how crypto prices are falling off because institutions are selling so that they can keep their bonus. Ganyan. I mean, but obviously all those reasons are part of the equation, but this is the single biggest reason. And if it's the single biggest reason, it's the single biggest focus that we have, at least to help navigate cryptocurrency markets moving forward. So that's really what's happening. That's the dollar chart. What I have here in front of you right now is simply a more blown up, zoomed out dollar chart, right? For the last 50 years. And this is a chart that we created in Open Journal. And it pretty much shows you how effective it is to use the dollar in determining whether asset prices, whether that's the NASDAQ, emerging markets, cryptocurrency, are in bull markets, and also when they enter bear markets. So we'll start with the left side of the chart. And what you'll see here, the white line, is that when you had the dollar move higher, this was in the period of the late 70s to the early 80s. This was a period where you pretty much had a bear market around the world, right? Not just, you see here on the middle, you see the Latin America debt crisis. That was when we had a prolonged bear market for the Latin America markets, right? And then as we crest up and now start to move lower, this is from the period of early 80s to the decade of the 80s, which you'll see the caption below. Then that was a period of pretty much a boom period for all risk assets, where you have equities, emerging markets, US equities. And if you recall, during this time, the 80s was a decade when you had new asset classes that were formed as well, right? So the late 70s to the early 80s was a decade where, similar to where we are today, where we have a new asset class in cryptocurrency, you also had new asset classes that came in the late 70s, in the 70s to the 80s. So oil became tradable. You had commodities which became tradable. Gold became tradable as well. And all of these commodities pretty much came into the financial market picture um, after um, after Nixon pretty much severed the gold standard. That was in the mid 70s. And what's interesting, and I'm not saying that they're the same or it's correlated, but what's interesting is that if you look at that particular period, which was a very inflationary period, which is the same period that we're having now, and this was mid 70s to, let's say, the early 80s, is that number one, it was primarily described as a highly inflationary period as well, where you had inflation pretty much at double digits. Inflation is not at double digits today, but it's certainly a concern. And if you look at equity markets during that time, the primary index back then was the Dow Jones. If you just indexed the Dow Jones to, let's say, 1968 or 1969 or the beginning of that decade, it was pretty much a flat performance for equity markets for that particular decade, from the late 70s, early 80s, from early 70s, from the turn of that decade, 1970 to 1980, equity markets were pretty much flat, right? And what's interesting is that the new asset classes during that time performed exponentially. So you had oil, which during the same period had a 15x performance. You had commodities move up as well. So obviously, these were new asset classes, and new money was flowing from traditional markets and financial markets into these new asset classes. And also, it pretty much also, obviously, that was also a time when the dollar pretty much tied itself to oil after gold, which also pushed up the price of oil, right? So that was really the biggest reason to that. But it's very, very similar to what we have today, where if you look at the traditional, let's say, equity markets, with the exception of the NASDAQ, they're pretty much, depending on where you index it, you can say it's sideways. But we have this new asset classes like cryptocurrency, similar to, let's say, the same inflationary period in the 80s, where you had these new assets, oil, gold, commodities, soft commodities, ags, pretty much move higher exponentially. And so going back to the chart, when you look at that first move down in the white line, which is the dollar, that was pretty much all. That was also when you had the Asian tigers were coined, right? That was behind, and the Asian tigers were coined. Singapore came on the map. Taiwan came on the map, and prior at least to the Asian financial crisis, was pretty much boom time for Asian markets. And so now we're at the middle of the chart, where we now have the white line moving higher, right? And the white line moving higher was pretty much characteristic of the Asian financial crisis, right? Where you had, it's funny. It's like every dollar cycle, same thing happens. It's just a different headline altogether, right? Like in the last one, it was the Latin America debt crisis. Now and this part is the Asian debt crisis, right? And then when the white line goes lower again, we're now shifting to the middle right side of the chart. Then this is another boom time for risk assets. This was the time of 2003 to 2008, prior to the subprime or real estate crisis that we had, right? And if you now focus on the pinaka right side ng chart, the turn that you see, the part where the white line turns from top to bottom, was really the pandemic period, or was really the point of the pandemic. Why? Because obviously, this is a chart of the dollar, and central banks printed 40% of all available dollars that are out there. And that's precisely why you have the value of the dollar go down, right? So I just want to be able to share with you this framework, and it's a framework that we're using. And the reason why this framework is important is because obviously you want to be able to making money in financial markets, more than offense, it's more about defense, right? Which means that you want to make money when it's the best time to make money, which means that, there's liquidity, and the winds are what's the term? The winds are pushing your sails, right? And obviously you want to stay defensive when the factors that have been pushing your sails are now going against you, right? And what's interesting is that when we look at the current environment right now, and this is the dollar chart, this is the weekly dollar chart. Since July, we've now seen that start to move higher. And it's no surprise that the weakness that we saw in cryptocurrency markets pretty much started around pretty much the same period, right? Pretty much the same period, where now that liquidity is pulling back, the asset class that performed the best, the fastest horse during the period when the dollar was moving down, is now having a hard time, right? And most of you who may now be convinced that you want to watch the dollar to see where you are in the cycle of things, may be asking, what exactly drives the dollar, right? What's the main driver of the dollar? And the easy answer is, like kami, at least for me, our team, and the community that at least we help guide and open journal, we pretty much help people stay on top of what drives the dollar, which is the US Central Bank. If you look at the greatest investor who ever lived, he's Stan Druckenmiller, the mentee of George Soros. He pretty much said that when it comes to financial markets, it's not really earnings that is the primary driver of stock prices. It's not politics, it's not economics. What it really boils down to is liquidity. And I sort of, it's not exactly a direct quote, but it's more of a paraphrase. But the point is that liquidity, I would even argue, more than the adoption of the technology, which is 113%, is really what will drive whether we stay in a pocket where you want to be aggressive, or are we going to get a period similar to 2018, where crypto prices dropped 80%, or 2013, right? Because since Bitcoin started, we've had 80% drops. While I don't necessarily think we're gonna get a drop, while I don't necessarily think that the succeeding drops are gonna be of that magnitude because of the institutional participation, I would advise people listening to this call to at least watch the dollar, or watch what the Fed is currently doing. And if you look at what caused the flash crash that happened 2 weeks ago in cryptocurrency prices, it was really simply because of this. Because during November 30, which is when crypto prices dropped, Powell, who is the head of the U.S. Central Bank, pretty much said that they need to accelerate the and I don't want to use jargon here, but they are going to accelerate the reining in of liquidity in financial markets, which means that in a party, if the alcohol is what keeps the party going, the party master just said that op, yung alcohol babawasan ko na. Instead of, let's say, 10 hard drinks, 7 hard drinks na lang. And then in 11th, so what they did was back in September, late September, they said that op, babawasan natin yung alcohol. And if, just imagine the alcohol is 120 billion per month, which is the size of the liquidity. In September, they said that op, babawasan natin na 15 billion yan per month. And then last 11/30, they said that op, hindi pala 15 billion per month. We now need to even accelerate yung pagtanggal ng alcohol sa party, right? The party being the bull market party in risk assets. So that's really what happened, why crypto prices dropped, right? Because the big funds, the smart money, the whales, which know how to look at liquidity, are looking at liquidity as a driver. And I think this is my last slide. And I'll end my presentation by saying that, when it comes to liquidity, there is a scenario where cryptocurrency markets can go higher, even with liquidity being pulled back, right? And, in financial terms, in stock market terms, that's what you call escape velocity. I won't go into that, but what it simply means is that instead of liquidity driving markets higher, it simply means that the economy or the growth, the economic growth, the earnings growth is strong enough to push markets higher, right? While that's certainly a case for 2022, I think you need to consider, there's a couple of things that you need to consider when it comes to liquidity. Number one, 2022, the fiscal side, meaning the liquidity from the government side, won't be as strong versus 2021. That's pretty much already a done deal. And the fiscal drag that you'll have on 2022 versus 2021 is estimated to be a withdrawal of around 300 basis points in GDP growth. That's minus 3% GDP growth, which means that you won't have that as a tailwind. And second, how we're thinking about it is that if you look at inflation right now in the US, inflation right now is highly politicized, which means that constituents are calling their congressmen, calling their senators. Biden's approvals are dropping because people are complaining about inflation, right? And when you get that kind of dynamic and you combine that with a midterm election next year, where the upper and the lower house, which are both Democratic right now, will want to stay in power, right? Obviously, then, they're going to have to satisfy the people or the politics, even though the Fed is independent. So they say the politicians, particularly Biden, who recently reappointed the head of the central bank, will be pushing the central bank to, hey, you need to be able to rein in inflation, because all politicians really care is for them to get reelected, and they want to satisfy the congregation, and to satisfy the congregation, they need to be seen to be acting and to be addressing the inflation concern, right? So that's really the kind of dynamic that we see moving forward. Obviously, if you ask me where crypto prices are heading from here, my honest to God answer is I honestly do not know, right? But I am certainly off the focus of asking the question asking the question if we do get another leg higher from here. Um, right now, if you look at, let's say, if you just look at technical analysis, Ethereum is pretty much holding above major support. Um, advanced traders will know that you have divergences already in the hourly and the 5 hour frame, which are precedent for at least some good movement off that support, movement off that base. And one of the things we're also seeing next year is, part of our focus is, will we get another leg higher? Obviously, we're watching the dollar for that. We're watching how inflation turns out, and we're watching what the Fed really does with respect to the whole reining in the alcohol in the bull market party, right? So there is certainly an argument that can be made that they really can't taper or tighten rates because of all the debt in the system. So we maybe might get another Q4 2018 pivot, kind of where they say they're going to tighten, but eventually they do a 180 and that pushes markets higher, right? So that's certainly a possibility. But I certainly just wanted to share, at least with the audience today, what we're focused on, what drives what we're focused on, and how we're thinking about markets, so that, let's say, if the liquidity stays there, if growth is strong enough, then we can certainly, participate in the continuation of this bull market party, right? Certainly, for those of you who are traders out there, you can simply look at the long term up to the 9 of Ethereum, the cup and handle breakout of Ethereum, because if those levels break, obviously we've seen some key levels break already for Bitcoin. You've seen MicroStrategy. You've seen, obviously, you have that bear div on the weekly chart that needs to be dealt with. But other than Bitcoin, some select outs are looking very constructive, and that's pretty much where we are positioned. Me and my team are positioned, particularly in Ethereum, at least for most of our funds, and that's what we're looking at. And if things don't go our way, then at least you guys are equipped with what we're looking at as well, so that if things don't go our way, then you can at least protect whatever you have in the same way that we will be looking to do so as well, should these factors go the other way. So with that, I hope I was able to provide some value and give you at least some idea on, certainly not a prediction, that's not what we do, but just to help divert where you're focused, so that you can be focused on the right things, so that you can make better decisions this 2022. With that, thank you for your time, and thank you to Investagrams for the opportunity. And we wish everyone an advance happy Christmas and happy holidays. God bless.
Alright, grabe. Thank you, Boss Javi, no? Again, of course, as always, from you and from the OG fam, di ba? Thank you for that comprehensive session, and grabe yung detail. And I guess mas naintindihan na namin yung macro point of view, yung economics behind what's happening now in the crypto space. So maraming salamat, and I'm sure maraming nag-enjoy sa ating audience. So guys, if meron kayong mga questions, this is it. This is your time to ask Javi, no? If meron kayong mga interesting questions dyan. But I'd like to start with a few questions na nagather namin ng team. So,
Sure.
Havs, what should traders do? No, when crypto prices drop 20% like a few weeks ago, yung na-mention nyo na flash crash, di ba? Crash. Now, would you prefer to stay in cash, or should people go short, no, in the crypto markets?
That's certainly a great question. As traders, the first thing that you should definitely do, obviously there are many layers to that. The first and most important layer is to always trade with a stop, right? I mean, I have a Mark Minervini mouse pad over here, and the first rule is always trade with a stop loss, right? So that's obviously the most important thing. Whether you do that automatically using Binance or whether you do that manually, which is, a few traders prefer to do it that way, then you need to be able to protect whatever your position. So that's obviously number one. If you have a crash, full disclosure, I really don't short. And I have never, and I understand you short using futures, and I've never really traded a future market in my whole life. So it's not really like, so I just want to baseline that and just to share with you, it's really not part of my wheelhouse. But the principle that you want to follow is you want to go long the strongest issues and you want to go short the weakest issues. And the reality is that cryptocurrency, generally speaking, is a strong market, right? Which means that, and you can have these moves where you can be up 50% and then up 10% in an hour na lang, di ba? Meaning, pinatay yung mga stops, right? There are a lot of moves na ganyan na pinapatay yung mga short squeezes, so they say, right? So I would just tell you to just short the weak ones, right? And the weak ones kasi are in the equity markets, which gives you, so if you have a platform that can allow you to go equities and crypto, that would be ideal. But for me, my preference is to stay in cash, because staying in cash allows me to just get centered, to take a step back and think more clearly, and to at least prepare for the next campaign and prepare for the next battle in this war, right? So that's, I would stay in cash to answer the question, especially given the strength of the asset class.
All right. Thank you for that. Okay. Thank you for that very practical answer, Boss Javi. So I think we have a few questions here, no? Because napansin siguro ng tao na you put a lot of importance or emphasis sa global and macro point of view. So ang tanong ni Rojan, where can we start learning the global or macro side of trading or investing?
I would say the best place to learn it would be Real Vision, and that's that's certainly I would say the epicenter for global macro. Certainly because the founder used to be a macro trader that dealt directly with the top macro guys like Stan Druckenmiller, Paul Tudor Jones, and other macro funds, such as and a lot of crypto hedge funds that incorporate a lot of the macro details. And there's certainly also crypto and certainly also macro. So I would say that would be the best place to learn. It's sort of like a Netflix, but for traders and investors. It's certainly more for the hardcore demographic. I love it. They come out with 3 videos a day, and I try to watch at least whatever interesting comes out on that day. And it's it's not also biased, right? It's not biased to bullish or bearish. They try to give a very balanced view. So I would say that would be the best place on a global level. On a local level, obviously there are obviously there's our community as well, but at least from a global level, the best sources I would say are Real Vision and to a certain extent Delphi Digital, which are paid subscriptions. So Delphi Digital, which combines some macro to crypto.
All Alright, thank you for that. So, alam nyo na guys. And of course, very helpful ang Open Journal community, especially sa mga ganitong topics. So, let's look for more questions, guys. Don't be shy if you have any more questions for Boss Javi. Let's look at what interesting questions you guys have. Right. So I think you touched on this a little bit, no? Pero yung question ni John Mark, good evening, sir. I would like to ask your sentiment about the other altcoins that outperforms Bitcoin and Ethereum this 2021. What would be the significance this 2022? And sige, maybe we can start with that.
Yeah, I mean, so thanks for this question, John Mark, and thank you for clarifying. So when we say Ethereum is going to be a major theme for 2022 versus Bitcoin, I did forgot to say that that also means it's going to be alt season, right? Uh, and what I mean is that if we do get a scenario where Ethereum outperforms Bitcoin in a way that the market goes up, not when the market goes down, where Ethereum just falls at the rate half as fast as Bitcoin. If we do get the former scenario, then altcoins will definitely be in season. So for advanced traders, let's say myself, my team, people in our community, we're definitely focused on trading the altcoins, right? So just recently we were able to catch the move in Gala. You mentioned CRO. One of our team members was able to catch CRO and a lot of the other moves. Primarily because as you go down, or not as you go down, but as you go farther into the risk spectrum, the potential returns are higher. But I would preface that by saying that the skill level required is more advanced. And I would say that, especially if you're beginning in the crypto space, or if you don't necessarily have the level of technical analysis and risk management needed, then the best advice that you can really receive is to just keep it simple. Just don't be too smart about it, right? Just trade normal coins, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum. I certainly would just stick to those important ones. You can do a simple scan. I mean, a simple read on the space will tell you that, the dino coins, and there's two kinds of dinos, right? Meaning the old coins like BCH or all these other like Litecoin. And, these are things that you don't really need to focus your time in anymore. And there's the other dino coins, meaning decentralized in name only, dino, right? So these are the coins that maybe might not receive the same degree of funds flow simply because of their concern as being a more centralized kind of technology versus decentralization, which is essentially part of the whole ethos of blockchain. So yeah, I mean, if you have the skills, then definitely a lot of other altcoins, especially the new ones. I mean, the space is developing so fast, right? That sometimes it's just so hard to keep up. I mean, I didn't even decide not to even like NFTs. Ayoko lang punta dyan. Like I just want to stay focused on the trading and the investing aspect of it. But definitely out some. If you have the skill set to do it, some of the altcoins will definitely be moving faster than Ethereum.
All right. Thank you for that, Habs. So maybe we can have two more questions, no, before we end the Q&A. So I think this one is important, no, from Reagan. So what do you think hinders the biggest financial institutions from shifting from fiat to crypto?
That's easy. I'd say number one would be career risk, right? Career risk meaning you don't want to be the guy that gets blamed when you put a very high volatility asset at the peak of the cycle, and then it goes down significantly. Obviously, more than the money lost, people are concerned about their careers, right, inside the company. That's always a major risk when it comes to financial institution adoption. The second thing would also be the volatility, right? So those are, I would say, the two major things. Volatility is really um, a major thing. I think if you simply measure volatility, if I'm not mistaken, cryptocurrency is 7 to 8 times more volatile than pretty much equities, right? 7 to 8 times more volatile than what these institutional managers are used to. So, that's not something to complain about. If you have volatility on the downside, then you have volatility on the upside, right? It's really just how you manage that volatility. The way I like to think about it is that if you're a trader and you're playing a video game, then equities, maybe blue chips would be, or let's say, assuming no leverage is used, then maybe bond market would be your level one, level two, maybe Forex because it's the lowest risk asset, assuming you don't use volatility. Then you have blue chips. You go up, you fight the boss, you try to hit a certain level. And then level 10 would be all your shit coins, right? All the altcoins and all these small, let's say $300 million or lower market cap altcoins, right? So that is pretty much what would be stopping institutions from adopting. But I will point out one thing, right? I will point out one thing. If you look at a major dynamic, and I would even argue a possible secular trend, meaning a long-term trend that we may have, at least in financial markets moving forward, it's this dynamic of having negative real yields, right? And let's say in the few months ahead, assuming that the Fed decides to let's say if we have a market decline and the Fed decides to pump in more liquidity in the system or peg yields at a certain level or loosen into an inflationary spike, which may certainly be a possibility, then what that simply, I'll just skip all the explanation, but what that simply means is that the traditional institution, which is typically 60-40 allocated, 60% to equities, 40% to bonds, what that simply will mean is that 40% of the portfolio will be losing money on a real basis, meaning the coupon less the inflation. And that's precisely why we're seeing a major trend now of institutions, since the 60-40 model is no longer working as it has been the last 30 years. We're now seeing a secular shift of institutions looking for solutions to that problem. Is it allocate more to equity? Is it allocate more to FANGs, to the index, right? Away from that 40% allocation. Some institutions in the States in particular have found that the best way to solve that problem has been to allocate to Bitcoin. While that is certainly that's more of an exception more than the rule, that is certainly a possibility that we're still looking at in terms of a major trend for this decade, right? And as a major deterrent to that, obviously you have career risk and the volatility associated with adopting, let's say, Bitcoin or Ethereum in an institutional portfolio.
All right. Thank you for that, Habs. And finally, I guess my last question would be, how can people continue to learn from you, Habs? Do you have any last words for our audience? Would you like them to invite them to Open Journal?
Right. So thank you for that segue, Renzo. Everything we know and are watching and is focused on about the market, it's simply all available in Open Journal, right? Obviously, as a full disclosure, Open Journal is really a venture partnership between Open Journal, the team, and Investagrams, right? The host of this event today. So that's something that that's essentially a paid subscription that we offer. But just to give you a background of how that started, um, it simply started because we wanted to just warn people about the drop that was going to happen in the Philippine market, right? I mean, most longtime followers know how we were pretty much pounding the table loud and publicly through the Investagrams platform. And thank you for giving us that platform to really warn people about, we were pretty much warning people for the last 6 months prior to the pandemic crash. We never really saw the pandemic or the virus coming, but what we really saw from a technical analysis point of view, which is a leading indicator, was a pattern that we recognized, which would result in a 30-40% drop, which we pretty much said when the market was at 7.5, 7.3, we said that the market would drop to 6,000 and eventually 4,600. So we were wrong, it dropped to 4,000. And what's important is that, we were able to sidestep that in at least on the equity side. So that's one part of the Open Journal. Second part of Open Journal was, remember, I started this presentation with a chart by Peter Brandt, the one with a parabolic uptrend line. And when we saw that, we pretty much said that, we really need to, educate traders and investors about this new asset class, right? About how, as traders, if we are faithful to our process of sticking with the path of least resistance, then we had no choice but to really, move capital there. And, for us, it's been the right decision, right? And full disclosure, we were invested in Bitcoin when the pandemic happened because originally we thought that they weren't correlated, right? So everything that we pretty much were sharing to you today, we learned the hard way as well, right? So we pretty much rode through the drop that happened, and even 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 with even with the fact na sinakyan namin yun, and I don't really say this to try to impress people, I just say this as an illustration or as an evidence to what we've been saying, is that, the last 2 years for me as a trader has pretty much been the best years for me. And it's exponentially been rewarding for me more than my 2010 to pre-pandemic returns, right? So what pretty much I made in crypto the last 20 months is more than what I made from 2000 to 2019. And that's not in any way to point a finger to me or my skill. No, it's just staying faithful to what every trader knows, which is the process that yields the best results, which means that we stick, we apply our system to the strongest parts that the financial markets can offer us, right? And going back, that's what we did with Open Journal. It was really a subscription that from the beginning was designed to be a shift away from equities, which were dropping, and into cryptocurrency, which what we thought was going to be the best performing asset class. And I know, Renzo, you're very much familiar with this because we've been a regular, and thanks to Investagrams, we've been a regular speaker in the Investa Summit. And I can still remember how we spoke in 2018, April, and we pretty much in front of 1,000 people said that the end to the secular bull market in the Philippines has already finished, right? we were ridiculed by other speakers also on stage for that. 2020, 2019, you invited us, and I think this was SM Aura, right? Where we said that the place you want to be is cryptocurrency. This was, I think, November 2019, right? We said that you want to stay away from the Philippine market, and the place you want to be is cryptocurrency, because if you don't, then over the next few years you're going to regret. And the speaker that came after us also ridiculed us, right? Right? Told us that that's not true because stocks outperform all asset classes over the long run. I believe that's what he said. And even recently, in the recent Investa Summit, which was online, right? So we said that, speaker after us, and there's a saying that eventually emerged in our community, right? It's a saying from the Batman movie, is that, in life, it's either you die the villain, or sorry, it's either you die the hero or you live long enough to be the villain. And the reason why we say that is because obviously if you're doing the process right, if you're doing your due diligence, if you're doing the work, then what really happens is that without you intending it to be, is that you end up being the contrarian without you intending to be a contrarian. If you follow my my logic, right? And because you're a contrarian, you're always ridiculed, right? I mean, it's either you die the hero, right? Meaning you're bullish, 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 bullish until the market drops. So you die the hero because you were leading the charge when the market turned, or you live long enough to be the villain because you're the always one going against the consensus. So maybe I can leave it there. If you want to learn more, you can find this in Open Journal. We'll try to do this, until our hearts are full to serve. Tao din kami. We don't know how long that's going to be, but obviously it's a paid subscription. But if you don't want to really pay for that, then we have a free platform as well. It's in the Investa groups, I believe. In your Investagrams platform, just simply go to Open Journal Lite, right? So that's where we post some of these views, post some of these cryptocurrency details, and if there's anything important happening, we try to post it there. We try to post also some outlook on the Philippine market once in a while. Not essentially an outlook, but what we're focused on and what we're watching. If there's any patterns that should be watched, that should be result in a major move higher or lower, then we try to post it there. But yeah, we try to add value. So you can follow us there as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Habs. And I'd like to thank Open Journal kasi actually ako, thankful ako kasi nakapag-sell din ako during that time na sinasabi nyo nga na pwedeng mag-crush yung Philippine equities natin. So thank you, Open Journal. Thank you, Javi. And thank you for the insightful session today. And sana makasama ka pa namin sa next events natin. No?
Yeah, I look forward to it. And thank you for having me. And I look forward to seeing you guys as well. Sana hindi kayo magsawa sa mukha ko.
I'm sure hindi. So yeah. Guys, I hope nag-enjoy kayo sa session ni Havs, no? So, before we end, mag-comment naman kayo, Javi lang malupit, no? Ito yung style ni Boss Thomas. So, Javi lang malupit, comment dito kung nasa Facebook man kayo or YouTube. And then, yeah, maybe we can move on to the next part of our program. I hope you guys learned from that, no? And later on, meron din tayong paraffle, guys, no? So, share the live stream, comment down #Investa Pioneers and tag 3 friends, no? And later on, meron tayong 1,000 peso worth of investment funds, mutual funds, no? Na ipapamigay. So I hope na excited kayo towards the end of our program. So once again, thank you, Javi, for being with us here.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
All right. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of our program. No? So I'll just fix myself. There you go. Yun, Javi lang malupit, no? So I'm sure marami tayong natutunan and grabe, kahit ako ang dami kong notes na tinitake habang nagsisession si Javi. So I'd like to move on to the next part of our program because as you may know, di ba, meron tayong Investa Pioneers na isinagawa sa ating Investa platform. And marami dito ang pioneers na nakikita ko sa mga comment section. Marami na ang naging part ng revolution, marami na ang nakakuha ng kanilang NFT. So I'd like to call on Boss Toma Trader to explain, no, and to inspire everyone. Ano nga ba tong Investa Pioneers and how can we become part of this movement? So, Boss Toma, are you here with me?
Oy, Renz, kamusta?
Yun. Okay,
Good
na-miss ka na
evening.
ng
Sorry,
mga ka-investa.
medyo madilim yung background ko. So, what's up guys? Good evening. So, ano ba Renz? Dalawa ba tayo? O sige.
Sige.
So, syempre, good evening to everyone. Actually, supposed to be in my place dapat si JC, no? But he had some personal emergencies that he had to take care of. So, I will be in his place, no? So, just to wrap everything up, syempre una muna, we would like to thank everyone who joined us today, who spent their Saturday nights with us. Right? I really appreciate your time and hopefully the event was able to provide value to you. Right? And of course, thank you to all of our speakers, to Boss JM, Boss Luis, and Boss Javi, right, for spending their Saturday nights and also providing value to the entire trading community. And of course, maraming salamat din sa mga teammates ko, right, who helped make everything possible tonight. Right? So, una muna, bakit ba namin ginawa tong event? Diba? Bakit ba may pawag-me event kami? Why are we showing how to make it in the new finance world, sa NFTs, metaverse, and sa cryptocurrency? Right? Why did we hold our very first Investa event? So, our Investa crypto event. So, as you guys know, yung mission namin sa Investa is to enable 10 million Filipinos to succeed financially. And one thing we understand is achieving financial freedom nowadays, hindi siya one road, diba? There's so many paths you can take. And even outside the financial markets, right? Syempre, merong business, merong real estate, maraming iba't ibang bagay. And if we're focusing on just the financial markets, investing and trading, if long-term ka, pwede sa mutual funds. Kaya kami gumawa ng sarili naming mutual fund platform for the longer-term investors. If mas trader ka, there's so many markets you can focus on. Not just the stock market. Baka nakilala nyo si Investa. Ang pinaka-core namin no simula was just being a stock market trading platform. But what we understand now is, syempre, there's so many markets you can trade. Not just the Philippine stock market. You have the global markets, the US equities. You have commodities. You have Forex. Right? And now, well, hindi naman siya bago. It's been around since 2014. But yung talagang nag-boom kasi lakas ka ng market over the past 20 months, as sabi ni Javi, is cryptocurrency. And we really want to educate people regarding that. Kasi kami dito sa Investa, we really see cryptocurrency. It is definitely a part of the future. It's really exciting where the whole space will be the next 5, 10 to 20 years, right? Not just the crypto market, but where NFTs will be by then, where I think, ako personally, I'm really excited. I'm studying about the metaverse. Right? So, sobrang daming exciting na mangyayari. But of course, hindi lang kami puro what I like to take pride in sa team is, hindi lang kami, mag-aaral kami na theory siya, concepts, tapos ibabato namin sa inyo. Diba? What we really do, even in Investa University noon, or what we continue to do is, whenever we share something, not teach, but share something, share our knowledge, our experiences, hindi lang siya puro, yung theory or concept-based. It's really something we experience ourselves, or it's really something we do ourselves. So I like to say that kami, si JC, si Berio, si JM, si Renzo, we are practitioners in what we preach, right? So, syempre, nagpa-crypto event kami, not just because uso na yung crypto, it's because we have a lot of exciting plans in that space moving forward, right? And we already launched the first one. So if I may share with you guys, diba, we talked a lot about NFTs with the first two speakers. If you guys are aware, we recently launched our first, right, Investa NFT. So, let me just, di ko pala share screen ko. Let me just share my screen really quick. So, teka lang. Yan. Renz, pop-up na lang yung design sa gilid. Di ko kasi makita. So, yeah. Renz, kita ba? Pasok ka nga. Sabi mo kita. Kita naman, no? So, we recently launched our first Investa NFT. Right? And when we were planning to do this, syempre, ayaw lang namin na, ano lang siya, parang kulang na art na cute na maangas tignan. We wanted it to have a real use case. Something I think only a few, at least dito sa Pilipinas, have. And if you guys are familiar with VFriends, something done by Gary Vaynerchuk, it's actually pretty similar to that. So when we created our NFT, it was really to have a use case and dapat something of value, my utility. And we saw it as a events access to all of the holders, right? So meron dalawang types, meron yung panda, meron yung bull, and both of these represent parang events ticket access. So yung bull, ano yan, pang all 2022 events, tapos yung panda, lifetime. So whether it's a trading cup or there's a summit, Investa Fest, all events, lifetime na yun. Diba? And ano lang to, may limited copies lang. I believe the panda is out of 99 lang yung supply niyan, and the bull is out of, I forgot the amount, pero may limited supply lang yan. But when we were creating this, sabi namin, why stop there, diba? Why would we just stop with the NFTs? Why not make it a whole bundle or a whole package that can provide even more value, like front up, diba? So besides the NFTs, the whole Pioneer, right, package comes with a lot of different things, diba? Iba-iba yung duration, but merong din Investa Prime, which is our advanced and analytical features, diba? Investa Watcher, Screener, Journal, etc. And we also added even more, right? So sa investing side naman, some of the different packages come with an investment capital starter pack up to 10,000 pesos, which you can use in the Investa Mutual Fund platform. And merong ding events archive access. So you will have access to, depende sa package, but most of the packages, you will have access to over 100 hours worth of learning sessions. Whether it's the old events of Investa, aka all the Investa Summits, the Investa Fest, Investa Trader Summit, etc., all of the Investagrams, Trading Cup, defenses, and all of the events, all of the elite webinars, it's all accessible if you are a pioneer, right? And even more benefits, right? And of course, yung natin, Investa merchandise. Sobrang lupit itong mga designs nito. And all of the events, etc. So I won't go into detail of trying to sell it, trying to show everything kasi medyo marami talagang value provided dito. All I can say is, if you find value in these packages, diba, just check out investagrams.com/pioneers, right? And yung pinakasulit na package, right, of course, is the Ultimate Pioneer, yung may panda. So we have batch 3s out, and we're down to 38 of these, right? So it was out of 99 lang yung supply, and 38 na lang yung natira. So if you guys are interested in this, head over to investagrams.com/pioneers, enter your email, and we'll send you guys the details regarding everything, right? So bakit ba namin to ginawa in the first place? Besides, we know crypto is big, and NFTs is big, and everything is really exciting, right? So by the way, yung pinakasulit na package, so sa atin na lang yung Pioneer tsaka yung Ultimate Pioneer, yun yung pinakasulit. But anyway, so bakit ba namin to ginawa? It's actually a limited time offering. I think until supplies last, or until the end of the year, if I'm not mistaken. And at the end of the day, it's really, I think JC would have loved to be the one to share this, but lahat ng kikitain dito, kada sentimo, hindi yan mapupunta sa wala. O kada sentimo, lahat to mababalik lang din, i-reinvest din sa company, i-reinvest din sa Investa. Everything we make here, right, it's all gonna go back to the company, so we can continue to innovate, we can continue to create platforms that can serve the Filipino people, we can continue to educate, we can continue to do free events like this on a Saturday night, or more events in the future, and we can continue to impact, right, the lives of as many Filipinos or as many people as we can, right? So, and that's why we did the whole Pioneer thing. And syempre, exciting din kasi the first NFT, tapos parang I don't think in the near future or anytime soon there's gonna be an offering like this anymore. Yung may lifetime access sa Investa Prime Elite, tapos may investment fund starter pack, tapos meron ding lifetime events access. That's something that's probably not gonna happen anytime in the next couple of years, no? So it's really a once in a lifetime opportunity for you guys and for us as well, no? And the biggest part pala, if I can just scroll down, is we're having this Pioneer Mentorship Program with JC Berrio and JM, no? So this is for the Ultimate Pioneer. So you guys can just check it out for more details. Pero yun, really exciting. I'm gonna be an attendee to this program. So I'm gonna learn as well from JC Berrio and JM. And I'm lucky I'm able to learn from them almost every day. Right? So yun lang. Again, all of this is going to be used for our future projects, and just really exciting where everything is going to be in the next 12, 24, 36 months para sa Investa. I'm really, really excited to continue to serve you guys and continue to just make an impact, right, in our country and in the lives of our fellow countrymen. Diba? So that's it for the Investa Pioneers. Again, if you guys are interested in this, just head over to investagrams.com/pioneers. And sa lahat na nag-avail ng packages natin dito, hopefully you found value in it, makatulong sa trading journey niyo. We're excited to meet you guys, especially sa mga ultimate pioneers natin sa mentorship program. So there you go. Maraming salamat. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be happy to assist you. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed yung WAGMI event, our first crypto event. Expect that this won't be the last. And yeah, happy weekend to everyone. And that's it for me. I think yung next segment natin is we're gonna move on to the raffle, which will be facilitated by Renzo. So maraming salamat sa lahat and enjoy the rest of your weekends. So, paano ba tanggalin to? Ayan. So, teka, may kailangan pala ako i-flash sa poster. Gumuna ako tanggalin, Renzo. So, ito pala, yung Ultimate Pioneer. So, 39 left na lang po para dito. So, hopefully, if you found value in those packages, we can meet you soon sa Pioneer Mentorship Program. So, yun lang, guys. Maraming salamat. Good night. And I would like to give the floor to my teammate, si Renzo Biceps lang malaki. Right.
Okay, maraming salamat, Boss Toma, for sharing that opportunity. No? So guys, thank you for supporting Investa. And ito na talaga yung first NFT ni Investa. So it's a very interesting project na delve in namin. And I hope na makasama namin kayo kasi of course, we would also like to invest in one way or another sa new technologies in the finance world. So I'd like to share my screen para sa ating mga raffle winners, di ba? So thank you for sharing the stream, for tagging your friends in this special event that we made just for you guys. So let me just check if nakikita siya. All right. Okay, so Boss Toma, I'd like to ask you, how many people are we
Renzo,
reward for our raffle?
There's gonna be 5 winners. Tapos 1,000 each na investment starter fund na magagamit sa the new Investa app, sa Investa Mutual Fund platform. So 5 winners, ng tag 1,000 pesos.
Alright, sige. So pipili tayo ng 5 winners, sa mga nag-share at sa mga nag-tag ng friends. So let's move on to the raffle. So let's pick the first winner. So thank you guys for being here. I hope nag-enjoy kayo and marami kayong natutunan sa ating session. Congratulations kay Karen Valiente. So if you are here, Karen, I'd like to list your name as one of the winners. Karen, congratulations for being here and for winning 1,000 pesos worth of investment funds sa ating mutual funds. That's one, Karen. And the next one, let me just run through this for a bit. Congratulations kay Sachi. Okay, so Sachi, are you here? No, so for Karen and Sachi, ayun si Sachi. Ikaw ba to, Sachi? Nagkaroon lang ng last name, pero if ikaw to, congratulations. No. And congratulations sa ating winners. Next, let's pick the third one. Congratulations kay Karen. Grabe, sobrang swerte naman ni Karen, pero to give chance sa ibang tao. Let's pick another one.
Pwede.
Grabe yung odds mo, Karen, ha? Siguro nagkakasino to lagi. Congratulations to Rachel Francisco. If you are here, say hello to the stream. Comment ka naman if nandito ka, Rachel. That's the third winner, Karen, Sachi, and Rachel. And we have two more. Let's pick the fourth one. Congratulations, Sky. Norwin Mostrales. Congratulations sa iyo. If you're here, comment down. And finally, congratulations to the last one, Kona Ai. So maybe Kona is a Japanese or I don't know what Asian race you belong to. Pero congratulations for being one of the winners. Karen, Sachi, Rachel, Kona, and yeah, I forgot the other one. But congratulations sa mga nanalo. So that's it, guys. I think that's the end of our session. I hope nag-enjoy kayo, no, in our 3-hour session with Boss Toma PM. No, so that's it for our session today. Congratulations sa winners and congratulations sa mga naging part ng ating Pioneer program because medyo mabilis siyang nauubos, no, tuwing naglalabas tayo ng batches. So this is it. This is the opportunity to be part of the NFT space. And if confused pa kayo, ano yung NFT, ano yung NFT art, maybe this is one of the ways that you can
Oy, Renzo. Lag mo naman, boy. Sige guys, ako na magko-close. Nag-lag si Renzo. So, Renz, ako na magko-close, boy. Nag-lag guys. So guys, maraming salamat sa lahat ng nanood. Hopefully, sabi nga ni Renz, we were able to provide value to you. If papasok ka pa lang sa NFT space, hopefully the Investa Pioneer program can provide value to you as well. So, ito si Renz. Oy, boy, balik kita. Sama ng lag mo eh.
Sorry.
So
Nag-give
guys,
up na internet ko after
guys,
3 hours.
Thank you tayo kay Renzo sa comment. Siya yung host natin for tonight. So thanks bro, Renzo. And thanks to everyone. I think we can end the stream here. Hopefully nag-enjoy kayo. Marami kayo natutunan. And congrats syempre sa winners no nung raffle natin. So yun lang, again, just head over to instagrams.com/pioneers if you want to check out yung NFT and yung Pioneer packages namin. So maraming salamat and good night and happy weekend to everyone. Ayan na, nag-lag ulit si Renzo.